Weapons, Take One. This is of course, a sequel to Weapon, that like animated book. You guys remember those?
No, I'm not.
Those like picture. It's like a picture book full of a visual history of arms and armor is what it's called. Did you guys have these when you were in school and stuff like that? I'll show you pictures so you know what I'm talking about.
I don't remember that.
This sort of thing. Anyway.
Oh, those. Yeah.
Like the DK ones.
Okay.
Yeah, with like they had dinosaurs. They had
all sorts of fun, informative stuff with cool pictures. This, of course, Weapons is a sequel to Weapon, an adaptation.
Yes, yeah. It's a brilliant thing for him. I'm going to put that on screen for everybody so that they can see it.
You should. I think you should.
The original.
Let the fine people at home see what the hell we're talking about. Hello, everyone in chat. I hope you're all having a fine Sunday. Today we're going to talk about a new movie that came out in theaters and that isn't awful. I'm very excited at that prospect. We're joined today by two very special guests, both who have been on the channel before. That would be John Graham and True Pop Culture. How you guys doing?
Good. Hello.
Hello
thank
indeed.
you.
No problem. Mr. Redhead says, similar to the bidding war over the script to Weapons, have you guys heard about the bidding war over the rights to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Some pretty big names are trying to acquire it. I had not heard that. That's interesting. Yeah, so Weapons, we'll talk all about it today, but you mentioned the bidding war, so perhaps we could start there. All I really know about the bidding war is that it was pretty competitive, and I heard that Jordan Peele's production company, which I believe is called Monkey Paw Productions or something along those lines, was really desperate to acquire Weapons, and they didn't get it. And Jordan Peele was very mad at everyone on his staff for not successfully acquiring this movie. It was highly sought after, I suppose, after the success of Barbarian, which was Zack Creger's first, well, technically not his first movie, but a lot of people think it is his first movie. Zack Creger, you might know if you're of a certain age, from Whitest Kids You Know, a sketch comedy series that I believe was on IFC and also on YouTube, which is where I discovered them.
I remember
Fuse. Okay.
Fuse TV.
That's the right.
What a throwback.
Yeah. Big fan of Whitest Kids You Know. I was in high school and whenever they were coming out. Big fan. A lot of great sketches, including the one referenced in the meme on screen. Zack Creger is very funny guy, part of this comedy troupe. And then his first movie, actually, a lot of people seem to be forgetting this, is a almost universally panned boner comedy that he co-wrote and directed and starred in with Trevor Moore of Whitest Kids You Know, called Miss March. Has anyone else seen that movie other than me?
No.
I think I have, actually, because I was big into Whitest Kids You Know. Craig Robinson's in that movie too, right?
Yes, he is. He plays a rapper with the stage name Horstick.mpeg.
Yes.
It's not a great movie by any means. They took some swings and, came up empty, but there's some funny stuff in it for sure. It's just a boner, gross out comedy. It's exactly what you think it is.
It's exactly what you would have expected from the Whitest Kids You Know group at the time, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, they got some success. They were originally a live sketch show in New York City, and then they got a TV show. Started blowing up. And then, Hollywood started calling, and they were approached with Miss March, which is about a guy who is about to have sex with his, girlfriend on prom, or the night of prom, except for he falls down the stairs and hits his head and goes into a coma. And when he wakes up, she has become a Playboy centerfold. And so he's going to try and reunite with her. That's the basic pitch of that movie. They didn't come up with it. Apparently someone else wrote it and approached them with it. And then they sort of, did some rewrites and all that sort of stuff. It's not a great movie, but it is actually Zack Creger's first directorial debut, which is kind of funny to me. His second directorial outing is a movie called Barbarian, which is much closer to Weapons in style and tone and genre. Has anyone on the panel seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
What do you think of Barbarian, John?
I love that. That was what made me pay attention to Zack Creger. Because I didn't really. I watched a few sketches of The Whitest Kids You Know. I was never really into it. I got nothing against that type of thing, though. I'm sure I would have loved it if I had watched it. But Barbarians had this like odd structure to it in a good way. It seems like Zack Creger's the type of director who knows how to challenge convention without like coming without it like sabotaging the film. Like he knows how to like kind of like Tarantino in that way, where he can like play around with structure and stuff like that and convention, and it actually he has he's so in tune with what he's doing, and he has such an understanding of what he's doing that it comes out like a decent piece of work. And I thought it was really thoughtfully written as well. Like the way he handles the tension in the first hour of Barbarian, where it's just like you don't know what to make of this guy that the girl encounters, and it's just like, is she in danger? Is she fine? Like it rides the line so accurately that I found that really compelling.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great stuff in Barbarian. I won't spoil it for the two members of our panel who have not seen it yet. I think you'll find that it is a lot like Weapons in many respects. I don't know how you feel, John, but I think Weapons is kind of sharper and more refined in most ways.
I agree.
I think it's an improvement on Barbarian, but if you liked this movie, I think you'll enjoy Barbarian as well. It takes some bold narrative swings, I would say, as does Weapons. And so, yeah, you mentioned the structure of the story is one of the most unique things about Barbarian and Weapons, actually. And so I appreciate that. It's a really cool way of telling a story. So anyway, someone mentioned in the chat the Civil War on Drugs, which
is co-directed by Zack Creger and Trevor Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, so he did direct that one as well, which is pretty funny. Anyway, today we're here to... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask, is the comedy to horror-ish films pipeline, like, is that a common thing, or...
Yeah, actually, funnily enough. So one of the classes that I took in film school was a comedy course with a guy who, Ben O'Brien, who did a bunch of Adult Swim late night sketches, for William Street, and one of them got pretty popular. It was the unedited footage of a bear sketch, where it's a like a YouTube thing of a bear doing bear things, and then it turns into an unskippable ad for some kind of allergy medicine, but the allergy medicine ad devolves into this like bizarre psychosis of a woman imagining a doppelganger of herself chasing her through a idyllic suburb as like it murders her family, and it's a wild ride. And it turns out, so the uncanny valley plays a very big role in both horror and comedy. So a lot of comedy directors and writers find it pretty like a pretty easy thing to step from one into the other. We did a little experiment in that class one time, actually, where he took the music out of certain Key and Peele sketches and replaced it with like horror movie music, and it's shocking how much of it plays like an uncanny surreal horror movie if you do something along those lines. So
all friends with like no laugh track.
That's another one. Yeah. I mean, I've always been a big fan of horror movies that are also kind of funny. Like The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I would describe that as a pretty funny movie. Very quick side tangent about that. I got to see it like a 35 millimeter film print screening of The Shining one time with a theater full of people. And the organizers of the screening asked everyone before the movie started, who here's seen the movie before? And more than half the audience had not seen it before. So I thought that was pretty cool. And watching it with a group of people who had mostly never seen it before, you'd be shocked at how many laughs there were. Like there were laughs deep into the movie. Like when he's like, when you interrupt me, you're making me forget where I was and all that sort of stuff. Like people are laughing pretty deep into The Shining because there's a lot of kind of stuff that's I would describe as like right on the border of creepy and silly. There's some snap zooms in the back half of The Shining that are pretty funny, I would say. And I always like that sort of thing. I was like riding that line. I think Weapons is a movie that does that very, very well. Before we get too far, go ahead.
Sorry, just one more thing. The two genres, I think, are heavily linked by the element of surprise, right? If you're looking at it like a Venn diagram of it. So, I think the people who can do comedy really well tend to migrate over to horror very well as well. And and Zack is one of the... You have to be careful with it, though, because you don't want your laughs to come at the expense of the horror. Some horror movies make that mistake.
Yeah.
But this guy knows how to balance it well, like to keep the laughs organic to the situation, and not come at the expense of it being actually freaky.
Yeah, I would say the Jordan Peele's more recent ones, kind of like Us, for example, tended to kind of pursue laughs at the expense of the tension and that he was working with after Get Out. You know, like when he...
And Nope isn't. And Nope is like not even trying to be funny, really, except for like a line or two. I'm very disappointed in him because he was a real silly goose when he was in Key and Peele, and I feel like he's just... I mean, Get Out has some solid jokes in it, but for the most part, it's just like, oh, you used to be like funny, silly guy, and now you're like, no, I'm a serious auteur filmmaker now. I can't be silly.
It's like Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I don't mind he's a good example of the migration, right? Because I mean, I thought Key and Peele was brilliant, and then I think he's a skilled filmmaker, but there's a sort of pomposity to his transfer from one stage to the other in his career. Yeah. All of a sudden, he's like this brooding, serious, like
he started wearing turtlenecks and
posing like Alfred Hitchcock in photos and stuff. Yeah,
it's like what Denzel's saying. Like, you just make movies, all right? Be humble about it. You don't need to wear your turtlenecks.
And you don't have to lose your comedic identity in the process either. You know,
you really don't. Especially if you're making horror movies.
Be jovial and lighthearted about everything. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was gonna say, like, I think he learned the wrong lessons from Get Out, because Get Out is a pretty funny movie at points, right? But like the thing,
I would have voted for Obama 3 times if I could. You know, that whole bit, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, the thing that it was praised for most was the social metaphor that it tackles with its horror theme, and so then he moves into Us, which is almost entirely social metaphor, to the point that it kind of sacrifices any other narrative coherence. And then Nope, which is just not particularly interesting overall. So
isn't there going to be another one? It was in the trailers for Weapons about some sports player, I think.
The footballs. Yeah, I don't think he's directing
that. He produced that one. He didn't direct or write it.
But I saw that trailer and I was like, that looks like shit.
Yeah, it's called Him, I think.
That
football player losing his mind.
Him, we, us. No. How many more words can we think of here?
That's coming next. I can feel it.
Yeah. John, it's interesting that you say that Weapons balanced comedy and horror elements. I would maybe slightly disagree. I don't know. In my screening, there was a bit of like confused laughter, like, haha, should I be laughing at this or should I be tense? But I guess we'll discuss it. We'll get into it.
I think it may have been a little more end heavy in its horror or its comedy. I mean, like, because I was laughing more in like the last 20 minutes than overall across the rest of the film. But I don't know if that's maybe what you're getting at. But
there's also an interesting thing that happens when when you're watching a movie that no one's expecting to be funny. Sometimes it can take a while for people to realize, like, oh, okay, that was supposed to be funny, or like I'm allowed to laugh at that, or like, you know what I mean? I've definitely had that experience before, where the audience kind of slowly realizes that this is supposed to be funny.
Yeah,
one of the things worth mentioning about Weapons, if you've only seen the trailer, is that the trailer doesn't give you any indication that it's going to be quite funny, which is an interesting. The trailer is all mystery and horror, there's plenty of that in the film, but it kind of doesn't tell you that this is borderline a dark comedy in many respects, which is an interesting choice.
All the laughs that I was getting from it in the beginning and through most of the film did not really pertain to the situation, because it's a tragic situation, really, and especially where the movie tries to make you think it's going. Like there's nothing really funny about it. What I found funny was the way people we're like genuinely reacting to certain little moments.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just like, oh, somebody would react that way. That is
Yeah.
funny. Like, or I would probably do the same thing.
I wouldn't say
that
that
kind of
there's a
thing.
lot of jokes, but there are like really funny and sort of relatable human reactions, like you just said. Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's talk about weapons. So before I ask our fine friends here what they thought of the film, I am going to just say right up the top that I recommend this movie, and I think you should go watch it. This is an easy recommendation for me. And so if you don't want it spoiled, and I think this is certainly a movie worth watching without having it spoiled, then you should leave now and go check it out if you intend to check it out. It's a pretty. I really enjoy this movie. I'll just say that. Well, and so we're gonna spoil it. We're gonna get into all the details. So if you don't want it spoiled, please leave now. There's your chance. There's your warning. Now get out.
We'll give you a little bit of extra time. We got a super chat from Sir Marhouse. Thank you very much. Says, I have returned to the land of the free and the home of the chiefs. The UK is a horrible country, and so are its people. Don't recommend.
Well, that's not very nice.
Not very generous to our guest here.
I'd be offended if I were a Brit, but I'm Polish, so.
Well, there you go.
I just live here. All right, Gee.
Confirmed accurate take.
Well, then, Mr. TruePop, let's start with you. We'll go right to left here. What'd you think of Weapons? Give us your little short version of what you thought of the film.
Well, I think it's pretty good, but I do think I'm mixed about some parts, and I'd be curious to ask you guys some questions about it throughout the live streams to clarify some bits. But overall, I did think it was better than something like, I don't know, Long Legs or
oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like the typical horror schlock like that. There's something more to this film. Some parts just left me kind of confused, but it did stick the landing as well, which I really appreciated. And I just found the viewing experience of it fascinating because, you know, with these MCU films or with these superhero films, with most films that I watch in the cinema, I kind of get a sense of where they're going with their, plot beats and stuff like that.
Sure.
With this film, I had no idea what would happen in the next scene. Like a clown could drop from the sky in this film, and wouldn't be any more surprised. So it was tense. I was really engaged, and I'm thankful that movie gave me that kind of watching experience to kind of be on my toes a little bit. So I did enjoy watching it. I do have some questions, some stuff that might not work, some plot points that I don't know are clear enough. But yeah, I thought it was good.
Awesome. John, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed this, man. I went in blind because I got that impression of it. Like, this is a movie you don't want to know much about going in. Like, the first time I saw the trailer, it's like, that's what the hell is going on in this movie? But I knew like I really like Barbarian, so I'm like, I feel like this might actually be good, and I wasn't disappointed, man. I was compelled all the way through. I love its structure. It's got kind of it reminded me, like, I mean, I mentioned Tarantino earlier. It reminded me of Reservoir Dogs with its non-linear jumping between different characters. Like, different characters are sort of, they define like the chapters, where like it's like you follow the points of view of several characters, and they all dovetail in interesting ways. Where it's just like, oh, that's how that guy ended up there, or oh, that's why they did that thing, or that's why he or she feels the way they do. I really enjoyed that. Laughing at it, I was always laughing with it. It all felt like deliberate laughs, but never, like I was saying before, at the expense of the horror. And a lot of people I noticed were sort of off-put by the ending, but I had written on X that, if you pay attention to the beginning, the way it starts, it's not really that much of a stretch. Like, it's just like, by the end, it's just like, oh, we are doing that. Okay. And it's it was a blast, man. Actually, and I was laughing quite a bit at the end, in particular. But not in a way where it's just like, okay, this is just stupid now. Like I was still going with it, but it was just like it managed to be organically funny. I was never bored. I love the cast. The characters are interesting.
Joe Pascal was supposed to be in it.
I heard, yeah, but I'm glad they went. Was he supposed to do the Archer character,
Yes.
Josh Brolin's character? Yeah. I'm glad they went with Josh Brolin. I loved him in this.
Yeah,
I love Jennifer Garner in
did
this.
you say, Pedro Pascal was supposed to be?
Yes,
Yeah, he was
originally.
Thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
This movie was delayed quite a bit in its production, such that like when it actually came time to start making it, Pedro wasn't available. And like I think Zack Creger has said that basically everyone in the cast, except for the guy who plays James, the tweaker, was supposed to be someone else originally. Like the cast got shuffled around a lot, but I think Pedro Pascal's the one everyone knows about because, well, he's just such a busy boy. He couldn't be in this movie. And I'm glad they got Josh Brolin instead because he's excellent in the movie. I agree.
Yep. Well, yeah, so I think Zack Creger is like a raw talent. He's one of my favorite guys working right now. I'm happy to hear he's doing the new Resident Evil movie. That makes me smile.
Wow.
And yeah, I would definitely recommend this.
Sweet. Hugh.
Yeah, I'd recommend it too. I think I had a really good time with it. I love the way that they use the structure to reveal information throughout, keep you guessing about what's coming. I think it's really well handled. The jumping between different perspectives. I've heard it compared to Magnolia a lot, like some kind of horror comedy Magnolia. I might go more in a like Pulp Fiction direction. I think it kind of has that feel to it, where you get more context for the different events through each character. But there are a few things that I do want to ask about, because I think some of them, especially at the front half, thinking about it further, I'm not really. Mostly, it's the dream sequences that I wanted to ask about, because there are a couple of those, and I'm curious what everybody makes of them. I think they are effective, but I'm not sure exactly how they fit into the overall narrative. And I'm curious to hear what you guys might have to say about that. But for the most part, I just thought this was a really well put together, fun, interesting horror movie with a great premise, and he does a good job revealing it. All the performances are really good. The cinematography is fun. There's some really great evocative shots. There's some really funny shots as well that like fit that sort of uncanny valley. Yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. Would definitely recommend it. I haven't seen anything apart from Miss March that Zack Creger has done, but I am curious about Barbarian. I do want to check that out.
Yeah. Well, someone says the stream is skipping audio. Well, is anyone else having that experience, or is it just like this one chatter's internet? Let us know. Anyway, yeah, weapons. I really, really like this movie. I've seen it twice now. Thoroughly enjoyed it both times. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece or anything, but I really, really enjoyed it. And as we'll talk about, there's some things in the plot that there are questions about how it all fits together because of the way it's structured in a very non-linear character chapter, structure. It can make it a little difficult to piece together whether every little bit lines up and fits. And having watched it twice, there's a couple little things that I'm like, I don't know if that lines up. But for the most part, on a rewatch, everything about it gets better except for a couple little plot details. I think the character work is great. I love the way music is used in the film, especially the way it uses that George Harrison song at the beginning. I just think it's fucking incredible. The cast is pretty great. People who I don't always really like in movies are really good in this. Like, is it Julia Garner? Is that how you say her name?
Yep.
yeah, she was pretty excellent in this. I thought all the characters were interesting. There were some really great surprises in terms of perspectives that I had no idea we were going to be getting. Like James, the drug addict, thought he was a real highlight of the film. There's something really funny about his perspective in all of this. I think it has like the film has a really cool like sense of place in terms of like this like small town. It's supposed to be Pennsylvania, but it's very obviously Georgia. And I don't know, man. I just thought it was a blast. This is actually what I was most impressed by is the fact that it started off with such a strong question, and the question you get from the trailer and from the very beginning of the movie is what the hell happened to these kids, right? And with any sort of mystery premise like this, there's always the fear that the answer is going to suck or make no sense, or there's going to be no reasonable way anyone could have solved it, or like, this so much of this movie's success comes down to the ending. I thought the ending was pretty fucking great. I thought the resolution of the mystery is really fun. I like the slow reveal that this is kind of a fairy tale in a sense about an evil witch. and I just think I just thought it was awesome. By the end of the movie, I was like it's getting towards the final act of the movie. I'm like, please don't fuck it up. Please don't fuck it up, because I'm so into it right now. And then by the end, I was like, holy shit, they didn't fuck it up. I had a blast watching it. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was pretty effectively scary. I thought the structure was fascinating, the use of music and the cinematography. I would say that the camera work is excellent, like actually pretty masterful. And then in terms of like the lighting and color correction, I think it's like, it's just kind of like a little dim and dark for my tastes. But in general, I think it's a pretty solid looking movie. I like it quite a bit. Big fan. It's my favorite movie of the year so far, and it's not even particularly close. So I'm excited to talk about it. So as we jump in, I figure since this is a movie that is told non-chronologically, that we won't restrict ourselves to going through the plot scene by scene in the order. I think we can free ourselves up to jump around and talk about any part of it as we see fit. We could talk about, like a whole character's arc or whatever, but I want to start with the main mystery. So again, if you don't want this movie spoiled, please go away now, because we're going to jump directly into it. So the very opening of the film is a narration from an unnamed little girl. In the script, actually, because I found the script online, her name is Maddie, but it's never specified who that is. Anyway, and she tells us the main premise of the film, which is what you hear in the trailers, that one night at 2:17 a.m., 17 children ran out their front doors into the night and they never came back. And they never came back is an important line. We'll talk about that later. But they all run out of their houses kind of like they're in Animal Crossing in terms of the animation. You could also compare it to a Naruto run.
Yeah, they did a Naruto run. They were and so the police, their first thought is to check Area 51, but it turns up nothing.
So the children get up in the middle of the night and run away, and they know that it was 2:17 a.m. because some of them had Ring doorbell cameras and security cameras that captured it. And when you see the footage, it's pretty eerie. They just have their arms kind of in a triangle. The triangle motif is very important in the movie. And they kind of run out with their arms stiff, outstretched by their side, like their Animal Crossing animations. It's pretty funny and creepy at the same time, which I think is emblematic of the film as a whole. It's just such a strange way for them to be running, and it's kind of amusing but terrifying at the same time. And so they disappear. All but one were from Julia Garner, whose name is Justine. She's the teacher of this class, and all the students disappear except for one named Alex. No one knows where they went. No one knows why Alex is the only one who is remaining. And so, for about a month, I think they say, they close down the school and they're doing an investigation. They're talking to the teacher quite a bit. They're talking to Alex. They're trying to look for these kids. They don't find them. Eventually, they do need to move on with their lives, and so they reopen school. And like right before they reopen school, they have a big parent conference where everyone can talk about their feelings and
how
everything
it makes
like
them
that.
feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of therapy speak. It's pretty funny, and then that's where the story really kicks off. Now, eventually, we are going to learn that the students actually are not dead, and they were actually mind control kidnapped by a witch.
Yes.
Which I love this choice. I love because it's such an interesting mystery. You know, it feels really kind of surreal, but like I just love the choice that it ends up just being like an evil witch. I just think that's I think it's great,
Yeah.
and I quite like the way the magic is used in this as well. I think actually maybe the best way of talking about this will be to go through the different characters one by one. Uh, it's an interesting movie to talk about because of the way it's structured. You mentioned comparing it to Magnolia and Pulp Fiction. It's definitely very much inspired by those kind of movies. And thinking about that, I sort of realized how many movies in the 90s are kind of told non-linearly like that. It's actually like super popular in the 90s for some particular reason. I'm not sure why. Like Magnolia and Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction and Run Lola Run and just a whole bunch of movies that were told like that. Anyway, so
but before we get into the characters, just regarding the whole ending with the witch, is I think this movie really benefits from knowing where it's going from the start.
yes,
Like the whole witch thing, it's
Definitely.
not just he pulled an ending out of his ass, and tried to make it work. Like,
Yeah.
you hear a lot of people, like writers, they get stuck on act 2 and it's just how do I, or like act 3, like how do I end this? Oh, I don't know, fucking alien
Well-
shows up and then,
Yeah.
something
the-
stupid. Like
the
this is a
disappearance-
dark fairy tale from the start.
Yeah. Like the disappearance of the kids, like the reason behind it is something tangible and kind of like you can understand it in a sense. It's not some like vague curse or whatever or what have you or dreamland or because usually writers get this in their head like okay, so I have this mystery of this classroom disappearing and that's the hook.
Mhm.
And then you have to okay, and then what was the reason for this mystery? Well, I don't know because it's a mystery. It's the kids just go missing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad it kind of had an answer to that mystery. Usually there is no answer. The mystery was the hook all along.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
It's very classic. It's a classic inciting incident in regard to like dark fairy tales. A bunch of children went missing and never came back, and you got the twinkly music. You got a kid narrating it. Like
It's got an urban legend kind of feel, like the
Yeah.
stories that kids tell each other, in classrooms.
Like it's told
trying to
around a
scare them.
campfire.
Trying to
Yeah.
scare each
Yeah.
other.
I
you
definitely
might
got
even be
type of
subconsciously
elements,
thinking witch from the start.
Yeah.
Just by the way it opens. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that definitely getting some Pied Piper kind of
Yes.
vibes from it.
Right.
I did want to ask, like, I think this would be a good starting off question, at least for me to clarify. My commentators asked me this, and I had no idea what to tell them. Why is the movie called Weapons?
So,
Oh.
Josh Brolin at one point when he is doing his contractor's assessment of the footage, and after he has seen the principal who has been hypnotized in the same way, chasing after Justine, right? He says it's like they've been weaponized to go to a specific target, and that's the reason.
There's
Like,
the reason in terms of intent seems to be that Zack Creger really likes sort of vague one-word titles that make you try to think about it. But to the Hughes point is, this is about how people become weaponized. I suppose we could start with the theme since we're basically talking about it now. So this is a lot of this story in terms of how all of these characters' narratives relate to each other is sort of about like losing agency and being sort of gripped and possessed by other things, whether it's drug addiction, like fear and paranoia, alcohol, all that sort of stuff. And then quite literally the witch is turning these people into weapons. I think he even calls them heat-seeking missiles at one point because she is, using her magic, she can turn them into weapons that like throw themselves with, everything in their power with no regard for their own self-preservation, just to try and like utterly destroy someone. You know what I mean? And like they can be turned into like, you know, like defensive like gun turrets essentially. Like when she at the end of the movie, when she like has them posted up in the house with the salt lines, the salt circles and stuff like that. Like if this line is crossed, then you attack and all that sort of stuff. And people, you know, their agency is like entirely, you know, taken from them. Kind of like how the sort of ant parasite functions in the ant, right?
The
Where it's like they're no
cordyceps
longer
parasite.
yeah, they're no longer acting under their own, you know, free will or under their own volition anymore. Their own like natural behaviors are being sort of gripped by something else. And then I think the most obvious example is the drug addict, right? Like he's the cleanest example of that metaphor, but you do see it in all the characters. I think the one who's kind of like you see it, it's the most vague, but I think it's still there is Paul, the police officer, right? Because he very much doesn't feel in control of his life. He has a sort of like domineering girlfriend slash wife. I don't know if they're married or not. You know, who
fiance or something like that. They're
fiance,
living
yeah,
together.
who kind of and she kind of like bosses him around a little bit, and he, you know, he doesn't like that, but he doesn't really say anything about it.
He's never it heavily implied he's never been in control of his life, even when she's not there, because he's an alcoholic. So like he's just going from one thing to another, and he feels like he has nothing to grasp onto. So yeah,
even being a cop, he feels like he has no like
power
or authority in his life, and he's just like frustrated.
Yeah. A couple of things in the chat. We'll talk about it more when we get to the mechanics of the mind control and the possession and what they're capable of. I disagree that they're turned into ineffective fast zombies. I think they're actually quite effective in most scenes, except for one or two where I think the movie makes the mistake of nerfing them. For example, when Paul is strangling Justine and she just kind of doesn't die. That's one of my problems with the movie. But for the most part, they actually are rather effective. And I think the mechanics for the magic are actually fairly solid. But we'll get to that in a minute. So back to weapons, right?
Yeah. Well, real quick, somebody mentioned in the chat that that's not what weaponized means. And so, like, I mean, this is just an AI overview of Google of the definition of weaponized, but using something, whether tangible or intangible, as a tool for attack or to gain an advantage, often in a malicious or harmful way. So one of the things...
So yes, to some destructive end. That was the only thing you were missing there, I think.
Yeah, some destructive
that
end
made the person say that.
So another thing, that the reason that the witch has done this to the children is it's not explicit in the movie. It's not like said out loud, but the reason is because she needs to like feed off of them, like off their life force, basically, in order to survive, right? Like that's sort of like it needs to feed off of people to survive, and so she gets like these younger children, 17 of them.
Yeah, I don't understand this pushback on the idea that they're being turned into weapons. Like they absolutely are. I don't like this seems entirely uncontroversial to me. They're being like that's not all that's happening there, but that is a major factor here. It's pretty clear. I mean, but also she's like parasitizing them and like draining them of their life force. But it's both, right? It's both.
Yeah. I mean, I understand your guys' arguments. Like, I don't know. Weapons is still kind of throwing me off because you obviously think of weapons as tools, really. So, but would you name this tools or would you name this
like not life forms? You mean like
tools?
Yeah, I guess
they have to be objects.
Name.
I mean,
I think a person can be
like that. Yeah, I mean, biological weapon. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's fair.
I mean, she certainly uses them as weapons many times throughout the movie.
Georgius, what he says is like it's like they're weaponized. They're going after like heat-seeking missiles going after a target, right? That's what he says, like that. Not that they all went to the same place, so they were weaponized. But I can understand the confusion there, I guess, because that is sort of that's basically his theory. By that point, is that they must have all been going after the same thing in the same direction.
Yeah. His only other experience of the behavior of the people under this influence is the principal, who very much clearly was. So he doesn't really have any reason to believe at that point that everyone else wasn't weaponized to go attack someone as well.
Yeah. And oiled and lubed phalanx is also pointing out even Alex is weaponized because she uses him as a way. She weaponizes his relationship with his parents to influence him into doing her bidding, and then uses him as a way to, get more of what she wants. Someone also was asking, like, I'm not sure exactly what she was feeding off of. Yeah, it's like a mystical sort of like one of those things. She's just feeding off of them.
Force.
It's their life force. She's a witch. We don't have to. We're not going to define it in scientific terms. They're not going to die. No. She's keeping them around for a while, but they're like slowly becoming, more and more mindless and catatonic. Yeah. And the implication is very much that it's not really giving her enough, especially the adults, that the children are sort of like pure fuel for her. So I mean, like, I think the fact that it's revealed to be a witch who is practicing witchcraft and doing very, very much coherently witchy things really does help make sense of how this all works and why it's working the way it does. You know what I mean? Like, this is just feels. I mean, she's literally the other reason this is called Weapons, I think, is because Parasite was already taken by a popular. Yeah. I did see the Parasites thing on the back in the classroom, right on the whiteboard in the classroom where it says Parasites, and I was just like, oh, are we gonna be like, what are we doing, like a cordyceps zombie thing right now? Like, what that feels like everybody's been doing that, but I was very glad that it kind of only used that as a tangential sort of metaphor for what was going on. It didn't use it
for how she operates, essentially. Yeah. And
well, I think like the term weapons is appropriately more broad to capture the feelings of, like, say, all the parents at the meeting who are wondering where their kids are, and they're just furious, and they're almost possessed themselves in a different way.
Yeah. Someone said, I agree with this. Oiled and Lube Phalanx says the most literal title would have been Bewitched, but that would have given away the jig. Yeah. The other thing is that it is a surprise reveal that there is a witch involved. You don't want to give that away.
Kind of, yeah, because like for some, like within the first narrative, somebody paints witch on the teachers on Justine's car, right? Because
I don't think most people would assume that an actual witch. I think this is just like a witch hunt, know, like.
Yes. Well, I thought that was such a clever bit of foreshadowing.
It was nice, yeah.
What you guys mentioned about the witch draining the powers, supposedly, like, because we get the kid's perspective on the witch, right? And it's never made clear that what she's doing will definitely work, will definitely make her better. She just thinks that it does.
Oh, we see that it works.
Does it?
Yeah, we see that it works. She because she fluctuates in age and decrepitude quite a bit in the movie. Okay. Like what? Yeah, she definitely looks more like she's on the verge of death when she's running out of the juice, essentially, when she shows up, versus like when she first gets the sort of like influx of youthful energy from the 17 children. She's out and about and she's got way more energy. Like, I think they could have pushed it a little farther in terms of like showing how much livelier she is, but I think they wanted to use the same actress for the whole thing.
I was thinking maybe she was kind of pretending to be kind of decrepit so she could get sympathy and move in to that house.
The implication seemed to be that she is on the verge of death, were it not for like feeding off the energy of the people that she parasitizes.
Yeah,
because I didn't get that. I didn't get that sense that she was feeding off any energy or anything like that. But you do make the point that she is up and about. She's not on the bed anymore. Yeah.
Well, I think that is the whole thing, right? I mean, like, you make an interesting point about her possibly hamming it up to the family in order to just be able to reside
'Cause
there, but I think
yeah,
she is on
that's
death's
what witches
door.
do. You know, they kind of put on this like, oh, I'm a feeble old lady, kind of, and then before you know it, she stabs you in the back, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the movie is. I thought it was fairly clear that what she's doing is actually like kind of feeding on them, because a big part of the sort of like witchy theme that she embodies in this movie is that like she's kind of perverting the sort of, adult child parent child relationship, because like Alex has a very sort of loving happy home, almost like idyllic, and then she comes in and she's, instead of being like the proper sort of maternal caregiver, she's like feeding on the youth of children and like using them for her own will instead of like nurturing children as a person is supposed to. And so like she's literally sucking the life out of them to prolong her own life. So it's in a sort of vampiric sense. And then we see a lot of little images of that sort of inversion of the proper relationship between adults and children. One of the other ones obviously is that Alex is now forced to feed his parents like they're infants, and then Archer is sort of reverting back to a childlike sort of thing when he's sleeping in his son's bed. Obviously, that's motivated by grief, but it's an image of like how things are being turned upside down. And I think so. I think her like feeding on the energy and life force of youth, I think, is pretty coherent.
I think it's it's there. I don't think it's not ever like said out loud. She doesn't say like, "Oh, I need children to feed on so that I can be young and peppy again." She doesn't say anything like that. She kind of implies that she needs control of people, or she needs, these like needs something like that, but it doesn't, I don't think it needs to be said out loud. I think there's enough evidence there.
There are a lot of clues. Dr. Metalblood mentions that there's some clues, like the fact that she calls it consumption. Like there's clues suggesting that she's actually very, very old, not actually their aunt at all.
He has a case of
and
consumption.
the fact that
what even is that?
I think it's interesting that there could be an element of shame to her character. That she feels she has to do this to stay alive, and she's just doing it out of desperation. But she doesn't want to admit that her life is inherently parasitical. Being the reason why she never explicitly mentions it.
There's also like she sees value in. How do I put this? She sees value in the kids because, for instance, like the kid's blood works when he uses it towards the end.
Yeah.
So obviously the kid's blood is of some value to her. Blood is definitely of significant value to her either way, to use this thing as well.
It seems to be like target identification, like the blood plays a role, but like the life force is more ethereal. Where she
there's
absorbs
a little bit of a connection, obviously.
Does that tree grow that we see?
I don't remember if it changes sizes, but the tree is obviously the source of the sticks she's using.
The little blackthorn tree.
So it does imply that the tree is sort of magical in some sense, but it's never really made too explicit. But just in terms of the blood, there is something sort of implicit about that, like the longer people are possessed, like the less blood they have in them. Because when they're stabbing themselves in the face with forks, like they're not bleeding like you normally would if you were stabbing yourself in the face with forks. And so, so it is. Yeah, so like whether it's literal in terms of like she's actually draining them of blood, or it's just kind of like an image of that metaphorically, there does seem to be like the sort of like the life force is being drained from them, and blood is an image of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, it starts off with the children having disappeared. The school is reopening, and the parents are understandably frustrated with the lack of answers, and they want to personally question the teacher of the class, and
Justine,
and the therapy speak at the PTA meeting, to open everything up, that's not doing it for them, especially not for Josh Brolin, who demands that Justine get up there and give them some goddamn answers. And of course she doesn't have any, so she gets up there and kind of just has to fumble through, look, I feel as bad about all this as you do. I don't. And that doesn't go over very well.
Yeah, no one's buying it. Everyone's upset with her. Yeah.
Rabble.
Rabble. Yeah. They're stirred up into a frenzy by Archer, played by Josh Brolin, who I love the way he interrupts the therapy speak, because the guy says something about like feelings of abandonment. He's like, abandonment, what the hell do you mean? Like, I don't see this like that at all, actually.
Yeah.
There's isn't there like this, I kind of like the part of it where all that kind of therapy talk, all that kind of bureaucratic talk by the police, like, oh, we'll find them literally, blah, blah, blah. All that is just talk. They have nothing.
Yeah.
They have no answers whatsoever, and they're just kicking around the bush, all of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is a little thread running through this movie of like therapy speak offering nothing of value. Like that happens a lot in this movie. And like, for example, Justine wants to go back to work. So she has a meeting with the principal, played by Benedict Wong, whose name is, do we remember what his name is? Principal?
Wong.
Marcus.
Thank you. Marcus
Yes,
Wong.
Marcus Wong.
And she's like, he's like, hey, like, you're not fired or whatever. You're just going to take a little leave of absence. And hey, like, the health plan has a lot of, healthcare professionals in it, pretty good ones. And she's like, you know what? Actually, I just feel like I should get back to work. I should fill my days with work and, like a normal schedule and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, she's absolutely right. But he's like, no, you don't understand everyone else, how this is going to make everyone else feel. So no, you have, he forces her into a leave of absence, which is like the exact opposite of what would help her. Actually, there are numerous instances of this where like the sort of therapy speak, bureaucratic speak is just presented as like entirely unhelpful, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely.
So one thing that I think we should also we jumped over it because we jumped into the plot, but the child narrator informs us about the investigative procedures that were done, right, to find out after the kids ran away.
I have problems with this investigation, but
there's a great place to address them. It's because I think that the first thing we find out is that they questioned the teacher, they questioned Miss Justine, and she has no clue, right? She doesn't know what any of this is about, and so then they question Alex. And they ask him a couple things that I thought were really fun. They're like, was there a TV show where this happened? Right? Like, which I did like that, that little idea of like kids sort of hopping on these weird trends from something that the parents just didn't, pick up on because, they're busy living their lives. Right. And he goes, well, if there was that, then I haven't seen it. And, they ask him, was there a plan? Did they set this all up? And he says, if there was a plan, I didn't know anything about it. And then that's basically all we get about the investigation at the start, right? And we'll find out a little bit more later
as we go
through, like in Alex's plot line. We'll find out that they came to visit the house and they did a little search and investigation of the house. At which point the witch had sort of managed to hide the kids from the cops when they got there. Because that was something that I was thinking of when I was going through all this. I'm like, how did they not go and visit this? How did the cops not go visit this house? Like, is this something like that just, it
turns out they did.
Turns out they did. They were deceived by the witch who just had zombie dad there, who, she told them that he had had a stroke and that she was there taking care of the family, and
medical records say otherwise. There is no stroke here.
Well, yeah. If he hadn't been to a hospital, that could be one thing, right? I think the other investigation thing that kind of it picks at me a little bit is the fact that until Josh Brolin came up with the idea from watching Wong do his thing, none of them tried to like triangulate where they were going.
You're hitting the nail on the head.
I gotta push back on that, because the implication And why that theory works is that they ran in a perfectly straight line every single one of them, which I don't think is a natural assumption.
Not necessarily a natural assumption.
Right.
That's
okay. Well,
and like if they did follow it, they would have come to Alex's house and found there was nothing there because they had been sent off into the woods to hide. Right.
Yes.
right.
So,
But I just want to add to this because I watched the trailer for this, right? Ages ago. And I thought, that's incredibly interesting. I'll check that out. I guess I misremembered the trailer somehow because I thought this film was going to be set in the 80s, maybe 90s. Hence why maybe, it's much more difficult to find the kids. But it is set in the modern day. I think that completely changes their chances of the police finding them.
Yeah, it's so.
We do assume that they don't walk in a straight line, but like with the Ring cameras, they're incredibly useful. You could at least, with missing person cases, you always put on a map the last place they're seen at, essentially, like retracing their steps.
Yeah,
and I don't see the police ever doing that kind of thing. Like, okay, what was the last position even of each kid?
I think
even that would suggest the house.
I think the thing
be suspicious of it. Yeah.
The thing that I had to kind of put aside for this because like the parents have Ring cameras, some of them do, right? I think they mentioned that some other houses caught them on camera, but that it didn't have any real definitive clues of where they went. And I think the only thing that I really had to put aside here and be like, okay, all right, yeah, sure, was that nobody on that street where they all ran up at the end happened to have a Ring camera that would have caught them running on the street.
Do you think our Ring cameras running all the time and recording all the time?
All the time. I have one myself. Anytime somebody walks past the front, it's a pretty wide angle lens too, so it's like anytime somebody walks past your front door or like on your street in the general direction of the camera, it pings and it will see. So
even if they're just walking on the sidewalk or in the street?
Even if they're just walking on the sidewalk or the street.
So a car drives down the street and it pings?
It can, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, because they mentioned a couple of them had them. That's that's sort of the implication. And I don't actually think it's a problem that they couldn't triangulate that they all went to the same place, because all they really have is a few houses that had cameras that show them running off in a direction. It's kind of scattered all over the town. I don't know if there's any reason to assume from that they would have made like a beeline as best they can as the crow flies, aside from a couple, aside from like fences and houses and things that might be getting in the way, that they would have all run in a straight line in a particular direction. I don't think that's something anyone would naturally assume. And because all you really have of their starting positions are their houses scattered all across the town, I don't think that would naturally lead the police to assume that they went to Alex's house. The other thing about Alex's house would be, whether they would be watching it more closely in general beyond investigating it once, right? Like maybe that's a little less believable. Like maybe they would have had a closer eye on that in general.
It was right under their nose. That's what's kind of bugging me.
I quite like all this stuff in the movie that we're touching on here. Like it like in particular, the police wouldn't assume that they're all going in a straight line, right? Because it goes against like all their understanding of like human behavior. It's like, why would all these we're not going to entertain the idea of there being a fucking magical element to this, right? But like it takes like an ordinary guy like Archer to be like, well, what if they are all heading in a straight line? Because according to the video, that does look like what they're doing.
Well, to be fair, he only gets that idea after he sees Benedict Wong doing a similar run after Justine. So he doesn't immediately put that together with looking at the footage. He sees Benedict Wong doing, or he sees that his kid was running towards the tower, and he sees that Justin Long's kid was running, it's in a similar direction, and then he's like, wait a minute, this guy is doing the exact same thing. Maybe we should, check and see, like, because he's going for an exact straight line, so maybe that's what they're doing too, right? Like he doesn't.
Well, I don't know. I
embrace that.
I think he looks at one kid moving, and is going. He's going in a pretty straight direction, right? And then it's like he doesn't know what to think at that point. But then once he sees a second kid do roughly the same thing, it's like, oh, are they all doing this? Do they all converge at one point?
He sees them all go for the tower.
So I think like in order for him to start going on this intellectual or investigative pursuit, like he would observe one child just running in seemingly a straight line, right? And think, oh, I gotta dig in. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but I'm gonna.
Why did he see that and not anyone in the police or numerous people?
So if the police are all looking at it too, you might. I think you could probably raise a question fairly, like why, like if they have nothing to go on, did nobody think of that? Like that they were all going in a straight line.
Sometimes the truth is like the most obvious. I don't know the saying. It's escaping me.
Well,
Damn it.
It doesn't make sense for people to do that in real life. That's why I like the idea that the police wouldn't even entertain that idea. It's like, no. They're not. They can't all be traveling in a straight line. Why would they do that? Right?
Yeah.
Because they're just not. They're not going to entertain any kind of magical element with this. Because that's not what police do. That's not what police forensics is about, like at all. Right? It's
none of them think that these children have been mind controlled. They're just like, okay, why would a child do this? Where were they going? And if this is happening all over town, you only have a couple examples of like where you can actually see the rough general direction they went. Even Josh Brolin, even Archer himself doesn't actually have the idea that maybe the specific direction is important until he has the dream where he goes chasing him in the same direction. He wakes up the next morning. Then he looks in that direction with a different sort of viewpoint. So it's almost like it came to me in a dream type shit. So it's an interesting thing. One of the things I want to talk about one of the things that I really actually don't buy, and it's a minor thing, I think, because it doesn't impact the story. It's just something we're told by the narrator in the beginning, is that like, oh, you won't hear about this in the news because they were so embarrassed they covered it up. It's just like, I just don't believe that. Yeah. Just like, I can't believe that happened considering what happens in this movie. It's just
surely someone recorded like with a smartphone, like those kids.
Well, I mean, it was on the news. We saw that it was on the news. That was just, and this would have been there'd be a lot of public interest over this. So that's just like I don't know what that's doing there, really. It doesn't affect the story. It's just like, why are you telling me that they covered this all up? I just don't believe that. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could argue that's just like how the kid sees it, but it's just like I don't know. It's just like a minor thing.
It just seems like a way to shut out any kind of authoritative, element in the investigation of this, and it's just like, now the story is just going to follow the ordinary people trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
Do we know how long were the kids missing for?
A month.
Yeah, and that would be another thing that encourages Josh Brolin to start thinking outside the box more, right? Where it's just like, okay, well, the police aren't getting anything done. Let's actually think about this. What exactly are the kids doing? And then he's like a little more observant.
Did you mention that the feds might get involved as well?
No, they were involved, yeah. The police chief mentions that they've been cooperating with the FBI. So in the story, excluding what the narrator says at the very beginning, that like this is on the news, the FBI knows about it. This is a big story.
There's even a radio thing in the car when Josh Brolin is driving that says, and now tomorrow will mark 30 days since 17 children went missing from this town.
It's just that opening narration that says like, you won't hear about it on the news because they were so embarrassed that they covered it up. And I'm just like, what's that line doing there? I don't think it belongs given everything else we hear, but whatever.
Since we mentioned,
I still think the police are dumb for not having some inkling, especially with
there's an implication that they did try to use dogs and it didn't work, right? So like, I guess maybe if they tried that and they couldn't, like the dogs weren't able to catch any scent, and like then maybe they were just like, fuck, man, I don't know. We'll just put this on the back burner.
So that's mentioned. This has come up a couple times in the chat. This is mentioned a couple times in the chat so far the dogs thing. Assuming no sort of magical influence at all, the dogs you think would obviously be able to have tracked them, right?
Yeah.
You know, like so
Mhm.
I think you have to assume that somehow it's not explained though. I think it might have been helpful if there was even a passing line from the witch. I don't know how you'd work it in, but it would make a little more sense of why the dogs weren't able to find them. But I think you do have to assume that somehow the magic prevented that from happening. I don't know if it's like
That's the only way.
I'd have to make something up for the movie. You know what I mean?
Because as soon as you introduce magic, I mean, it's like
A wizard did it, right? Like that's
scent signature while they were running the entire
Yeah.
way. Because
Yeah,
it can't just be a radius around the house, because the dogs would still be able
Yeah,
to
exactly.
at least
I
pinpoint the
think
house, right?
this film should. The
Well, they
methods
had
to find
dogs then,
missing.
too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have better methods today to find missing people, like all sorts of cameras, ring cameras, that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
they could easily track down where they aren't
think the
as well.
the main investigative tool that should have worked, and we just have to assume some magical reason it didn't, is the dogs. And they had dogs back in the 80s. I think there is something important about it being set in the modern day in terms of like the social isolation component. You know, that like this
Yeah.
being a small town in the 80s would be very different in terms of like how interconnected socially everyone is. Like there's numerous things in this movie, like where Archer meets some of the other parents whose children have gone missing, and they're like meeting for the first time,
yeah.
essentially. It's like because they just don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And like no one's like really familiar with or checking in on Alex's family. It's like everyone feels very isolated from each other. And I think there's something about that that feels especially modern. And I do think it would be that aspect might be a little harder to believe if it was the 1980s.
Yeah, I understand your point. I still feel a little uncertain about the police not having nothing, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. The police still bugs me, but yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, since we brought it up, I did want to talk real quick about the dream sequences that happen in the movie, because we mentioned that Josh Brolin's character kind of has this revelation of a straight line theory in a dream, right? And he's not the only one who has a dream that involves this and sort of hints at what's going to happen later.
Yeah, there are two dream sequences in one like drug-induced hallucination that all kind of function similarly.
Yeah. So my question here, right, is what? Because I think you have to sort of assume that magic is involved because the witch Gladys is present in the dream in each one of those in some way, right? Like she's involved in them. Narratively, what's happening there? Like that.
Well, I think I've thought about this, and I think the only I suppose it depends on what you mean by narratively. So,
well, so
what do
like
you mean?
okay, so I understand that we're using this as sort of like horror stuff, right? This is spooky time stuff. They're stressed. They're having nightmares about it. But it is also giving them hints as to what's going on, or like at the very least showing that on some level subconsciously they are aware that there is something off and that this weird looking thing is involved in it, right? But like, why is that happening? Like narratively, what is causing that to happen? Because presumably that wouldn't, like, she wouldn't be in those dreams if she wasn't influencing it in some way, right? Is that them subconsciously detecting her presence in the town?
I think so, essentially, because it doesn't make any sense at all that she would be doing this on purpose, showing up in their dreams like a clown to go, "Hi, it's me, Gladys." I think the only reason that this would be happening is it's very Twin Peaksy, right? That like your dreams are revealing you, like something in your dreams is trying to tell you what's really happening here.
Yes.
It's like a little just like a little some part of your subconscious or some outside forces like trying to tell you that something is amiss here, that something is happening, and it's right after Josh Brolin's dream that he looks at that watchtower, not watchtower,
Cell tower.
Cell tower, and he it kind of, after running that direction in the dream, he then has the idea that maybe he sees the watchtower. I keep calling it a watchtower, the cell tower, and has the idea. So there's a little bit of that sort of David Lynchy, your dreams are trying to communicate things to you type of vibe. And I know that Zack Creger is a big David Lynch fan, so I think that's sort of the implication there, because none of them have met Gladys, and I don't think there's any motivational reason Gladys would show up in their dreams on purpose. So I think you have to assume a sort of magical, and nothing in the plot really relies on them having seen Gladys in their dreams. It's just a thing that's happening, like a little hint from the universe.
That's really the big question that I had with it, right? Is that it's not that it's driving their decisions really, because the parts of Josh Brolin's dream that are driving his actions are the ones that make sense, right? He
would just be dreaming anyway.
Yeah, he would be dreaming about following his kid, and that his kid's going in a straight line the whole time, right? It's just the recurring imagery of the same character, right? That neither of them really know, but they are seeing at the same time. And I guess you kind of just have to assume a sort of passive absorption of this weird vibe in town that this is happening. Because otherwise it's just she's definitely not doing that on purpose, because that if anybody were to see her out and about in her weird getup, that would put them on her trail, that's,
it would attract attention.
So, I've seen a lot of people in the chat also pointing this out, the gun over the house in the Josh Brolin dream. That part, I don't have an answer for. That feels a little random. It
does feel a little random.
Weird way. Maybe and to tie into the name of the movie, I guess.
I know from an interview that Zack Creger just intuitively thought it he wanted in the movie. He didn't really have a good explanation why. He just wanted it and thought it felt right, and so he included it in there. I think it's one of the things that if it were gone from the movie, it would affect literally nothing. I think all it really does is confuse people about whether this is supposed to be a school shooting thing, which I don't think it is. Really,
I didn't get that at all. Apparently, some people.
A lot of people seem to.
I would assume that a lot of us over here on this side of the pond, where this is our new national pastime, might assume that kind of thing.
I think
I do actually think there's a bit of that in there. I think it's playing on modern fears of school shootings, where a bunch of kids can vanish in the blink of an eye, right? And in this situation with this movie, it's a bit different. But I think this guy in particular, Archer, he's sort of this utilitarian guy. Maybe owns a gun. Maybe has some military experience. I don't know. He feels like he has that kind of vibe about him.
Contractor kind of dude. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I've he might watch the news a lot and hear about a lot of shootings and stuff, and then you mix that with just it's not a stretch for me for him to have a dream where maybe they all got shot or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I kind of get it on some deep level.
Here's what I would say. I think there are certainly things about this story that are in some ways evocative of how people react to in the aftermath of a school shooting. I think when people try to argue that this is a school shooting allegory, as in this is one big extended metaphor that's meant to stand in for school shootings and how people react to it, I think they're way missing the mark.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't there's too much. First of all, when I see people say things like, "Oh, it's an allegory for school shootings," I'm like, okay, what's the witch? Who does she represent? I'm not saying you're saying that, but I have seen that a lot. I think there's definitely, obviously, some of that imagery and sentiment just kind of background radiation for the movie, right? And
Uh,
the specific gun above his house, it's a specific dream that he's having. I don't think it's really. It's someone mentioned in the chat that there is a gun poster in Matthew's room. I don't remember seeing that, but
I
that would be
remember. I think I
interesting.
remember seeing something like that. That there's like he has a lot of posters in there, so maybe it is on that.
Yeah, a couple of people have mentioned it. So yeah, so he has
just
a poster.
an associative image that shows up in his dream, I guess maybe.
Yeah, it's so prominent though,
Yeah.
is the thing. I think maybe it was a little bit of a mistake to include it if it doesn't feel connected to everything else. You know what I mean?
I think school shootings are in modern history a significant American event. I mean, not just in America, but I think like just in America, it seems the idea seems to be sort of attached to that nation. And
the British version would be a knife.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
A kitchen knife.
And then you combine that with the idea that a whole classroom of kids are suddenly gone the next day, right? And then somebody has a dream where they mix those two ideas together, and it manifests in that way. That's what I took from it.
The other
I could
thing,
be off, but I can't think of anything else to substantiate that.
I would certainly say that this is an image that like you can kind of make a lot of different things out of because it's not directly tied to really the events of the story very much. It's not like an AR style weapon comes up at any other point in the movie. You know what I mean? So but really quick, I wanted to just highlight that Ruby says that he also wears dog tags.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. So I didn't notice the dog tags in my watch, but yeah, I believe you. That it makes sense.
Yeah, so he's a military man in my
for sure. You were on
weapon he used. Job. You know, like it's all kind of vague and ultimately doesn't impact too much. Anyway, TruePop, you're going to say something.
Right. You mentioned like if this is an old allegory showing what's the witch, and I can tell you who the witch is.
Is it the NRA?
Drag queen story hour. That's what she is.
Hey, you know what?
I
buy it. I'm in.
Because like we see her for the very first time when the tweaker sees her in the forest.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
The first time we see her is Justine sees her on the ceiling, in her dream.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed that then. That one I missed then.
But but I think True Pop is right in that is the first sort of real world sighting of her, right?
The she doesn't show up. Is that he's high as a kite on meth. So I think I think the implication for me was that he's essentially having a sort of waking dream the way that previous characters were. See, I don't think she's actually in the woods waving.
Oh, I did.
Interesting. I didn't think of that.
Waving, but no, that
really?
Makes sense. Yeah, I did because
me too.
It was playing it very lucidly up until that point, right? Like he was high on meth, but he was also like very goal driven at the time, and it hadn't really done too much with like hallucinatory experience for him. So I was just kind of like, she's just like following him because he was in the house. But no, that does make sense that he was hallucinating, like or on.
I was absolutely bewildered because I didn't see her the first time with the teacher. I was absolutely bewildered when I saw her in the forest. Like what? I was like, what is that? Is that a drag queen? Like what am I looking at here? Exactly. Mm-hmm. But it is revealed later on, so it's kind of funny looking back, like knowing everything now that happened. But watching it in the moment was definitely bizarre to say the least.
The presence of the witch in the dreams is interesting because I would rather that the dreams were based on real life sightings of the woman, and then the people who see her are like, that woman was weird. There's something weird about that woman. I can't put my finger on it. And then they have the dream, and then they have like it's sort of an exaggeration of the vision of that woman with the weird makeup, where it's just like the clown aspects are sort of exaggerated a bit. Where
like
it's
if she was in the background of more shots, kind of incidentally in the first half, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, as long as each character that has a dream with her in it sees the character once beforehand, even if it's just a little glimpse, I would have liked that better. And I wasn't sure actually if Archer had seen it because I had to piss so bad in the theater, and I got up like when it was his chapter. When the part where he walks towards the house, he's like overseeing construction of or something like that. I'm like, I gotta piss so bad, and I left, and I came back, and I was wondering, like, while I was away, did he see the woman? Because then that would explain why he's seeing like an exaggerated, monstrous version of her in the dream, but if he didn't, then like you guys were saying before, this is a case of like the universe trying to tell something to these characters to rectify some kind of imbalance, where it's just like evil has sort of taken over this town.
Evil dies tonight.
Like, right? Yeah. So, no, I think someone brought up in chat that Justine might have actually seen her. Is that true? Did Justine see the woman?
They're saying that Justine's awake when she sees her on the ceiling, which she wakes up from it's a fake out dream, right? Like she wakes up from her dream with Alex in the classroom, done up in Gladys's makeup, and then she wakes up and she thinks she hears something in her house, and she's sleeping with the bedroom door open in this version of it, and then she looks up at the ceiling and Gladys is on the ceiling and she screams and freaks out, and then she wakes up again, doesn't she?
She doesn't wake up again, but she like screams and freaks out, and she looks up and it's gone. So it's more of like just like the tweaker. It's kind of like a little hallucination type.
Okay, thing. Like still in a dream state, kind of.
Guys, yeah. Now that I think about it, who wrote Witch on her car?
Archer.
Was it the kid?
Archer, yeah.
Because he has the red paint. He used the wrong red paint on the door.
Right.
And then he goes and paints on her car.
I guess it's implied. I thought we'd get to see him actually do it, but I think we cut off to the point where he does it. I thought maybe it was the kid.
No, it's very, very heavily implied that Archer did it. We just don't see him do it. Like the camera sort of pans over to the paint and then cuts away.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe someone snatches that paint, like maybe Archer didn't do it.
Actually, I don't think I like the idea of Archer doing that, to be honest.
Yeah,
it just seems a bit out of character for him to picture him to actually like kneel down and actually painting those letters. Like, what does this accomplish, really?
Yeah, looking back on it, I thought it was a warning. Like, there's a witch in town, like someone that was trying to warn this teacher. Because that kid couldn't speak to her. Maybe he was trying to but that's just me reading too much into it, I suppose.
I would say it's not impossible, but it's a little thin that Archer would have done that based on how he's characterized otherwise. It's not the most well motivated, but it's not impossible. It's just I'm a little surprised he would do that after learning about him more. But I mean, he certainly was very aggressive in the meeting, and he is stalking her a little bit.
I mean, not only in terms of the lack of what it accomplishes, but like, given he's sort of a utilitarian, sort of no bullshit kind of guy, is he really going to be thinking like she's a witch?
She's a witch. Know what I mean? She did something to her class. Yeah, that was a little odd. That would be like it's a strange word choice for him to pick.
I'd rather I like the idea of someone painting witch onto the car. I just rather it wasn't him.
Well, it could also be not him, right? Because like there is just paint in the back of his car, so like maybe somebody takes the paint and does it. He just
that really seems to be a direct implication there. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's up for interpretation. Sorry, TruePop, go ahead.
Someone must have taken it out of his car while he was there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got to be him.
Yeah.
It's got to be him. And the other thing that makes it kind of a surprising move for Archer is that he knocks on her door so she'll see it.
Yeah.
Twice,
you know what I mean?
As well.
Like that seems like something a younger person would do, not Archer, but
right.
There's a little bit of
Dr. Metalblood says I think he would have painted cunt. And, I would agree.
Not necessarily a younger person, but somebody more superstitious than him. Because like painting witch on somebody's car, that's a pretty extreme thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm still sticking with my theory that the kid did it. He was trying to warn people.
Alex did it, yeah. Just walk all the way out there. Yeah.
Because he goes home every day, yeah.
There's some argument about it in the chat. I can believe he does this. It's just a little surprising. I think I might have expected him to be characterized slightly differently by the time we get to him. With the hindsight that he painted Witch on her car, then ran up to her door, rang the doorbell, and then ran away so we can watch her react to it. You know what I mean? Like that just feels slightly different in terms of behavior than how Josh Brolin is playing this character in all the other scenes.
This isn't even like a knee-jerk reaction right after the event. You know, this is after the month, right, that went by.
Yeah,
after all the investigation,
sort of festering on the idea that she knows something and no one's doing anything about it.
Right.
Like he's just stewing on that constantly.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what she did, but he knows that she's involved because it has to be her. There's no one else it could be. And so he's just stewing on that constantly.
Yeah. There is that, if nothing else, I agree. Yeah.
One last thing I have a gripe about with this film. The kids...
You only have one more gripe? Wow.
Well, yeah, just yeah. The rest I liked. The kids chasing the witch. Although I found it a very fitting, very satisfying demise for her. Her kind of, flailing her arms saying, "Ah!" Like, my audience laughed at it. And they didn't laugh at it because I was incredibly confused. Like, are we supposed to laugh at this? Because I know the kids are going to freaking butcher her. So I'm like, haha.
There's a difference between laughing at and laughing with, right? I wasn't laughing at that part. I thought that was the laughs were intentional, but also in a way that where it's just like organic, because she is genuinely afraid, because she knows better than anybody what those kids are going to do to her if they catch up with her, right? Because she understands the nature of the spell at work.
I just didn't know what the intention was. Like, should I be laughing, or is this funny, or should I be scared because I know what will happen? I was that kind of confused.
It's intentional, and I think the biggest giveaway of that it's meant to be funny is the way this part is staged, where there's a guy mowing his lawn and he sees the witch run from one backyard to another, and then there's a pause. And then the whole herd of children comes screaming at, like, it's such a comedy beat, like so intentionally visually funny.
I guess I understand that there's like comedic beats to it, but should I be laughing?
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely. It's hilarious.
No, wait. I guess you guys understand me wrong. Should the person that's making it make this scene funny, or should he make it tense because the kids are chasing her?
I think it can be so far. I think this movie does. I think what it's a certain kind of technique where, for example, when they catch up to the witch and they literally start to rip her apart, there's a music cue that plays that's super bright and happy and like major and like these twinkling harps as she's being ripped apart. There's like a very obvious like. If you were just listening to that piece on its own, you would not think this plays under a bunch of children ripping a witch to death, like ripping her apart and brutally murdering her. There's like a disconnect there on purpose because it's that, it's that thing. It's the reason that like, Stuck in the Middle with You during the ear scene in Reservoir Dogs is probably more effective than it would be if there was like spooky tense music. There's something about the disconnect that gives you that little like shock of how the things or don't fit. Juxtaposition, that's the word. I think it works better for being funny because it's also cathartic and satisfying for like a pretty depressing and sort of brutal movie, and it's still going to have like a kind of a sour note, which I think is really effective, but it's a little bit of levity where you finally get a little bit of a release, like watching her run away and be undone by what she did to everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think sometimes there is an organic inherent comedy to things in life, even if it's like horrific. Sometimes this may seem like off track, but it made me think of The Sopranos. Like that show is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
Yeah.
but it so often the subject matter is horrific and people are getting killed and there's wakes and people are dying all around them. But there's just this organic comedy that comes out of it without the writers even trying to be funny.
Yeah.
You know, because I think comedy, there's just an inherent role that comedy plays in day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
And there's something inherently funny about a crowd of children chasing an old lady.
Yeah.
There is something amusing about that.
And there's something about this sort of removed perspective of all the people who don't know what's happening, seeing it happen. And it's like, this is what it would look like, and it would look very funny out of context.
Yeah. Especially if you cut to like random like people standing around going, "What the fuck?"
Exactly. Yeah, that was good.
He's taking joy in how funny this must look from a not like an outsider's perspective who has no idea what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Point taken, guys. One more little thing. Archer, why isn't he brain dead? Like
because he hasn't been under for a month.
Yes. The implication, I think, is pretty clear that when the witch is destroyed and her influence goes with it, the people that were possessed the longest are the most unsavable. And the one like Josh Brolin who was possessed for like 2-3 minutes is the quickest to come back. For example, the parents were possessed for the longest. They're gone. They're vegetables for the rest of their lives, is what we're told at the end of the movie. They're in some like hospice center or whatever.
They've been institutionalized. Someone else is feeding them soup. They've been Neville Longbottomed to hell and back, basically.
Yeah, and the narration at the beginning and the end, I can't remember at what point it's mentioned. I think it's at the beginning that this is when the narrator is speaking. It's 2 years later. That is something explicitly stated. So 2 years later, the final line of the movie is like some of them have even started speaking again this year. So like they were under it for like a month and it's taking them a long time. I think something about them being so young does sort of help them and sort of
they can bounce back a little bit, but
they're
going to be held back a couple, you know. They're going to get extra time on their exams. It's going to be, you know, going to be some work.
There's a duration aspect to it, and I think there is something about the fact that they're younger means they might be able to sort of recover a little bit, but it's the film is still pretty clear. I think I've seen people criticize this as if it's like a misdirection, but when she says, and they never came back, I mean, I think that the movie's pretty clear that essentially those kids never came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just starting to speak again.
Yeah.
They got to rebuild.
That's good. I guess what I'm trying to point out is like I guess Archer is pretty lucky that this mind control, as soon as it's applied, it doesn't apply brain damage like immediately. Because when you're watching the scene with Mr. Wong, like with the parasite and it replacing the brain and whatnot, you kind of think, oh, is the director kind of comparing this parasite to this kind of control? And you'd think on like first viewing that control instantly basically replaces your brain in a sense. So I guess he's kind of lucky that I didn't have.
Well, I mean, again, the parents at the beginning, like in their first scene where they've been taken over, they're not entirely brain dead, right? They can still speak, and it's been about a day, right? Like he can still say, like, "How was school today, buddy?" And so can the mom. And then the longer it goes on, the worse it gets, and to like
until they don't speak anymore at all, incapable entirely. Yeah, and like
there is an implication too. Also, like, sorry, real quick, there is an implication also, like, she does tell Alex, pack your things, we're leaving tomorrow, right? Because there's an implication that she's done with what she came here for. She's used them up, and now it's time for her to move on, like, sort of the way the parasite would. So, like, the implication really is that there's nothing much left for her to take. So she's going to be moving on and, bringing Alex, enrolling him in a different school in a different town and kind of just repeating this, right? So I don't think the movie ever really, like, goes with the idea that the brain damage from the mind control is instantaneous. And he's only been under for maybe 5 minutes, or, since he went down into the basement. So, that that didn't bother me very much.
No, I mean it's more the parasite thing is an image or a metaphor of like how she operates, not so much that she actually has like spores inside of their brains, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's chewing them
and I
up
think-
and spitting them out, and then she'll move on and
Yeah,
go
she's
somewhere else.
draining them essentially. Yeah, and there's the longer it happens, the worse they look, the worse they act, and all that sort of stuff. You know, because when they're first taken, Alex's parents look just like they're tired, and then by the end, they're like basically zombies, right? So, yep.
Mhm.
All right, we've been jumping around. So what should we talk about next?
So somebody asked, and I was going to bring this up too, since we're getting all this. What's the deal with Wong's black projectile vomit? That's a little.
That stands out as like not really directly related to anything else.
Yeah.
It feels kind of like it's in there because it's a spooky horror thing.
Yeah, that probably added to my impression that the brainwash was like something like you're dead,
physical,
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he has that much like black goo inside of him before this happened. So it's
maybe he was a smoker.
Maybe he was. He has all those fruity pebbles he was eating, all those hot dogs. Yeah, I don't think that one really makes a whole lot of sense. I think I wouldn't have had him do that at all.
It does make
You
for
know,
a pretty cool visual later when he attacks her at the gas station and his face is all fucked up and creepy.
Well, it would be all fucked up from the headbutting, the repeat headbutting.
Smashing his head, yeah.
Yeah, the black mouth is kind of a cool touch also. I think that
the barf, like vomiting the black goo, it like surpassed even like 28 days later blood vomiting and went into Evil Dead territory.
Yeah.
Where it's just like vast quantities of liquid.
I think he just thought it would be cool. That's why I put it in there.
Ruby's asking, do you think if it had to do with his and his husband's overeating? Well, 7 hot dogs a day is a lot. That's pretty high.
A bit much.
It's a bit much on the hot dogs.
Wait a minute. Isn't that like a stereotype to kill the gay one first in horror movies? There's something about that.
I don't know about it's usually
I don't know about the gay one. It's usually the black guys. Usually we go for them first.
Remember
That's the trope I've heard,
there was in The Boys. I don't know if it was season 3 or 2. Like they couldn't kill Maeve because she was lesbian, and it was just like, oh, that's irresponsible. Yeah, there's kind of like a trope like that. I can't remember.
I wouldn't know about like what their grievances are in terms of TV and movie tropes, but it's really funny because it's a small detail, but it makes me laugh. The fact that when Wong and his boyfriend are sitting down, they're watching a nature documentary and they're about to eat 7 hot dogs. They have a tray. It's just a fun little reference to a Whitest Kids You Know bit called Hot Dog Timmy. I highly suggest you watch it if you haven't seen it. It's funny.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on that.
Oh yeah, so that's what the 7 hot.
So it's like reference.
like Timmy eats 7 hot dogs a day. He's like, yeah, that's a little high. It's a little high, Timmy.
Like, do you think that's bad? He's like, well, it's not good.
We mentioned as well, like towards the start of the live stream, this kind of bureaucratic or therapy talk being kind of useless or detrimental in some cases. It comes back to, I don't know, like this politeness with with the lady coming into the door, letting them letting her in.
Can I have some water? And he's like, I don't know about that. And the husband, yeah, of course you can. Come on in.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The guy at the end.
Oh yeah.
He's just like, no, you won't. Nobody will. Like everybody's afraid of having bad manners. So
yeah.
You can coax someone into something nefarious just by being polite.
I thought it was very funny when she asked. She's like, "Okay, I'll get you a glass of water," and she goes, "No, a bowl." It's like that's funny. I can only imagine like asking somebody for water at their house and like. But no, please give it to me in a bowl. Actually,
like that's one of my weird quirks. I don't even try to rationalize it anymore, and they're like, okay, sure."
That's a good example of taking advantage of organic comedy that's organic to the situation, right? Because they're thinking like, what is she going to drink out of it like a dog? Like, do I put it on the floor? What's she going to do with it?
Lumi, I don't like your username, Lumi Licks Feet, but I like your comment. Whoever's the top eats the fourth dog. So I want to talk about some of the spooky things. We mentioned the dream sequences, right? Where like, you know, Justine's walking through the school and then all the kids with their head down, and then Alex puts his head up and like he's got the clown makeup on.
There's makeup, yeah.
Yeah, there's some spooky stuff like that, but not all the spooks in this movie are, you know, hallucinatory in their nature. One of my favorite ones in the whole movie, Justine is trying to reach out to Alex. She's like trying to figure out what's going on with him. She wants to sort of like, they're the only two left. They're sort of in this together, but she's being forced away from Alex. Like, you're not allowed to go talk to him. At one point, she tries to go talk to him, and he's like, you know, stay away from me, stop following me. One time she comes by the house and she sees that it's all newspapered up, and she's like, what the fuck? And then she's feeling particularly nosy, so she goes around the back and she looks in and she sees his parents sitting on the couch like zombies, you know.
Yeah.
And she tries to report this to Wong, and we'll come back to that plot later. But at one point when she's watching Alex's house, she gets drunk because she pours a bunch of vodka into like a
big gulp cup,
like a big 7-Eleven big gulp cup, and she like, you know, gets really staking out Alex's house. And then the camera work here is so fucking good. It's one of my favorite little spooky moments in the whole movie, is when the camera like pans from her. We're still in the car, but it pans over to the door and then slowly zooms in all the way to the front door of Alex's house, and then it opens. And then an uncomfortable amount of time passes before anyone comes out of the door. And then Alex's mom comes out, and she's walking
like
very strangely,
like a puppet. Yeah,
like she's being puppeted. Yeah, like a marionette with like scissors in her hand. But because it's so far away and outside of the car, it's all happening silently, which I think is just a really nice touch. The movie does that a couple times, where like what you should see, you can't hear. Like what you think you'd be able to hear, you can't, because we're inside of a house or inside a car. And so it's all just happening silently. It's just slowly walking towards the car, and slowly the music is ramping up in tension. She gets right to the door. She just stands there. The music cuts, and then she walks out of frame, and you're like, oh, that was weird.
Yeah.
And then you hear the back door open. At both times I watched it, like super loud audible gasps from the crowd. It's so fucking good. Like just everyone's like, oh my god. And then she gets into the back seat, and then she like, you hear scissors, and then she just cuts a little bit of her hair, and that's it. I love that scene so much, man. It's really so good scene. Strange and funny and weird and surprising. Yeah. It's great.
Every little beat of it is carefully considered, like even down to like the way the door opens. Like the door opens in a sort of unnatural way, where it just sort of swings open at like an even velocity, and then just suddenly stops, and to complete darkness. Then you're just waiting, and then you see that woman walk out, and by the way she's walking, you can tell like she's possessed, right? So it's just like, if you assume like she's got scissors in her hand, right? And because she's not in her right mind and she's walking with scissors, you assume that as soon as she gets to the girl, she's going to stab her, right? And so when she's in the car, you're just sitting there going, oh shit.
You see the scissors come in like, from off screen. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And then the reveal that, oh, the mindlessness was just about getting the lock of hair. That's it. And it's just like, what are we doing now?
So what the hell is happening in this movie? Where could this possibly be going? And then that's the first moment that we cut to black and start a new chapter.
Yeah.
And so the movie is really kind of like pulling you, like, we're gonna do some weird stuff here. Just bear with me. It's almost like being edged in the movie. Like we build up to these moments, and then we go, not yet. Hold on to it. We're gonna come back.
Right.
And it's just like, every single time one of those little chapter breaks happened, like there was a loud sigh in the theater. Like people were just like trying to get rid of all that tension. Like, what are we doing? Come on. You know, it's kind of funny. I couldn't tell if it was like a sigh of annoyance with how it was structured, or more just like trying to let some of that tension out. I'm not really sure, but it was a very like vocal and like engaged crowd. which I was happy to see. People were pretty into the movie, so that was a fun theatrical experience. That was one of my favorite spooky scenes in the movie.
That was a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so weird.
I mentioned too how much I like the visual of Wong running after her at the gas station, and especially like the way their faces sort of begin to distort the longer the scenes go on. Like their eyes get bigger and like more inhuman. I loved that. I thought that was like it happens again with Paul, the cop, when he's strangling her later. His face just distorts in this really bizarre way. I thought it was very, very effective. Very
the bulging eyes is a cool effect. Yeah.
I think they're VFXing the eyelids out. I think that's what they're doing there.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Some part of them is in there, kind of watching like a passenger in a car. That'd be a scary thought.
I think
that would be.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was sort of intended to be how it worked.
It's interesting. A brief note on that, because one of the things, when it finally came to the end and, the kids utterly obliterate the witch and then the spell's broken, I'm watching it like, oh, how are we going to deal with that? Are we going to see a bunch of children just staring at the horrible thing they did and they don't know why? Like, how are we going to play this? I was kind of worried how he would handle that. And then the idea that they're still kind of catatonic, and so they're just kind of standing there empty, like not really reacting at all. I was like, oh, that's a great fucking choice.
Yeah.
Like that's perfect. That's exactly how I'd want. Because otherwise, if they came back like nothing happened, that would be pretty. Well, I mean, it's traumatizing either way, but it'd be a different kind of traumatizing. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Real quick, because I'm seeing some discussion in the chat about this, and it seems like it might have been a point of confusion for people. The way we talked a little bit about like certain things with the magic that we're not sure how it works, but the ones that we can definitively say how they work, I think, are also kind of important to bring up, I guess. So people are asking, for example, how she controlled Archer that quickly at the end. Why didn't she turn Justine into a zombie? There seems to be some confusion about the hair versus the items. So from what we are shown, items, if she has something that belongs to somebody, she can turn them into a zombie, basically. She can make them a mind-controlled sort of puppet. The hair, when she wraps it around the stick and puts her blood on it and then breaks the stick, that's the targeting device.
Yes.
And then when she drops the stick into water, that stops the attack from happening.
Yeah, those are the mechanics of this particular spell, and it's the only spell we see. And the bell she has a little bell that she rings that can be to start the attack, right?
Yeah.
Or to stop. Yeah.
But the bell can summon, or like she rings the bell in Wong's house to like get him to freeze, right? As she prepares the stick. By cutting his husband's hair and wrapping it. So
the bell has the number 6 on it for reasons that I don't understand. I think it might just be there to make you wonder why.
Six.
Except
that 6 is a little spooky coded.
It's
as far as
loosely evil because of the mark of the beast, I guess.
Yeah, it's a spooky coded number.
One less than 7.
Just the reason Alex's mom goes and gets a lock of Justine's hair so that she can target her if necessary in the future.
Because at that point she's not threatened by her. It's not like she's gonna be able to bring down the whole operation. It's sort of just like insurance, because at this point she's the only one who's really poking her nose around, and so that makes sense to me. And then I think she uses it later with Wong, because she's like, oh, well, you didn't call the authorities yet, right? So she's making sure, and then she's just going to so at that point, the problem looks like it's restricted to 3 people, which is the husband, Wong, and Justine. So she's, holding it in her back pocket as a sort of like insurance measure. It's not really for,
The question was asked, why didn't she turn Justine into a zombie? And I think it's because she doesn't want a whole army of zombies. necessarily until she feels that it's necessary, because she's trying to keep a low profile.
Yeah,
You know,
these
Yeah.
zombies are easily spotted.
Yes.
Distinguishable.
Yeah, and so like at this point in the story, she's not trying to create even more people going missing. You know, she kidnaps the kids using the magic because she wants to just feed off their life force so she won't die, because she's on the verge of death again. Adding Justine to that doesn't really give her much in terms of the juice. It just kind of like creates another person going missing who, you know what I mean? Like it's not really in
Yeah.
her interest in that moment.
Yeah.
And later when it's like, okay, well maybe Wong, because when the only reason she decides that she is going to possess and control Wong, whose actual name is Marcus, is when he says, actually, it's kind of non-negotiable. I have to speak to his parents. And she's like, oh, okay then. Well, you know, now I have to do this. Originally, she was just going to be like, oh, well, you know, they're doing fine. I'm taking care of them. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. He's like, I'm sorry. Bureaucratically, I have to speak to the parents. It's non-negotiable. And then we see her looking at his ribbons in the office, like her mind is made up now.
Yeah.
And the reason then later that she takes Paul and James, so the cop and the junkie, is because they do, like, James it gets in there looking for, you know, stuff to loot because he realizes that nobody's home, or like he sees the evidence on the driveway that nobody's been home for a while. There's like Ziploc bags just on the driveway, and he discovers the kids and the parents, and so like she's like, oh crap, we got to get him. So, you know, there's that, and then the cop shows up because James is there, or James leads him there, and so she has to, you know, bring him in, because otherwise, like, you know, he's gotten the tip that this is where the kids are, and he's the one who's following up on it, because, you know, they're just gonna, the rest of the cops at the station, once James has called it in, are just gonna chalk it up to like, oh, he said he knew where they were, but it was an anonymous call and he never showed up. So, like, I guess, you know, another kook who says, you know, what happened. And so yeah, that's why she takes them, and that's like right before they're about.
She's like, we gotta go.
Right before we've got to get out of here. So, you know,
push this a little too far. We have to leave now. Yeah. Exactly.
There is a logic to it. Yeah, like she would leech off of everybody if she could, but like she only creates weapons trademark if she, out of necessity.
Yeah.
Right.
So does she have to like think of, because Wong bashes his husband's head in? Does she have to think of a way to kill them, or just destroy? Like, I don't know if she has to have a basic command in place.
No idea.
Yeah, it just seems to be destroy, and I think the bashing of the head is just so that every single one isn't just strangling. I mean, I can't think of any other particular reason why. Like, because she doesn't give a command. She doesn't say, "Oh, for this one, I want you to headbutt him to death."
Yeah. Hey, I think this one maybe try the old dick twist. You know, like they don't.
Yeah.
Twist it real hard. I think one of the main things it demonstrates, though, is that they can be controlled so thoroughly that they have no sense of self-preservation. And they'll just fling themselves at, you know what I mean? Like, because headbutting someone to death is not a thing most people would do because of a general sense of self-preservation, right? And so, like, I think that's one of the things that it's designed deliberately to evoke, is that, like, oh, you know, they'll do this with like pure, unadulterated determination, right?
Right. Yeah. So, like, the parents stabbing themselves in the fork, that was probably like the command self.
Yeah, well, because she also says in that scene too, she's like, I can make them eat each other if I want to, and you don't want that. So, like, she has some control over it. Maybe she decided, for this one, like, I'm gonna make you headbutt your husband to death. Yeah.
Well, I think actually no, I think you're right. I think you do have to assume that she directed that without saying it.
So the kid commanded those other children to rip her apart.
Hey, you know what? After a month of this, he's probably got some demons. So, you know.
Yeah. Brutal kid.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
I can believe that. Absolutely.
The whole element of magic is in this is really interesting, like the way it works. Because like I mean, we touched on this earlier, but like the idea of like establishing a target, right? The assumption is like if you took hair from somebody from the other side of the planet and then took the blood of somebody like who you want to act as your agent, and you snap the stick, they would swim across oceans to get to the person that they need to, right? And they just go straight there. And the only deviations that they would take is like if there's a building in their way or something. Yeah. Like they would just like, go around it.
Well, I mean, they go through.
But other than that, roughly it's a straight line.
Some of these kids at the end, they're charging through that. I'm like, get these kids in the NFL, man. Like they are
right.
dogs. They got that dog in them.
Yeah. That's a smart way of justifying that cool visual image of kids smashing through a window, right? Because that is a striking visual thing that they showed in the trailer, and it's just like, why the fuck would they do that? And but that works, right, in that context.
I mean that's part of the whole like completely losing your agency thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the cop got scratched with like a potato peeler, so it's just like pain, fatigue,
that was
tiredness. They don't care. It'll just keep going.
That was so funny too. And she does it once, and it doesn't work. So she tries it again. Gives it the old like maybe this time doesn't work that time either.
Don't kind of do that. He might wake up.
It's kind of it's a funny little moment, the potato peeler thing. But this is one of my big problems with the end of the movie is how long it takes her to be strangled. She's strangled for so long by both him and by Archer, and then she's just kind of fine. I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't stretch this out that long. She's a tiny little girl, and these are supposed to be people who are gonna like run through windows and all that sort of stuff and just stop
or
at
like
nothing.
Headbutt their husband to death, like
and I think for the most part the movie's really consistent about that. Like how the way that Marcus acts in the gas station sequence is pretty consistent, and like he isn't nerfed in that scene, I would say. And then the way, the kids act at the end, they're certainly not nerfed. I think, and the parents are certainly trying as hard as they fucking can to kill Alex in the final sequence. The only one that stands out to me is like she's potato peeling his face, like, and he's just kind of standing there, like I feel like he's not giving it 100% in that scene, or else she would have died already. And so that's my big issue with the action of the
final like right at that same point, Archer's dealing with James the junkie, and he keeps picking him up and throwing him across the room, and he keeps getting right back up and coming right back at him. Gets Spartan kicked in the chest, goes flying.
He just goes, he keeps running back.
Keeps running back at him.
Funny and effective and consistent with the general sense of relentlessness that everyone else seems to have, except for Paul and briefly Archer when they have Justine in their hands.
Just like, I think this is a broad problem with like sequences, climactic sequences that use intercutting, right? Where it's like is all this happening in real time, or like when we cut away from one thing, are we meant to think like time is freezing in that one instance, and then when we cut back to it, like it's just like we're picking up exactly where we left off, rather than all that time passed and now we're cutting back to this, and this thing is still happening, right?
Yeah, exactly. To your point, the intercutting does make it seem like she's being strangled for several minutes, but even if you're just looking at it like just the amount of time that she's on screen, I still feel like it's too long that Paul isn't just dispatching with her.
Yeah.
It's
I agree.
We take a little too long on that. I know we want the them like looking at each other in the eyes, and she like slowly grabs the gun, and the potato peeler thing is kind of funny, but I just think it kind of undercuts the tension a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Lou Meelik's feet mentions the AIDS is probably slowing Paul down, the early onset AIDS and hepatitis.
You have AIDS?
I thought
AIDS and hepatitis, both of them.
Yeah.
I thought they were going in that direction, like, oh my goodness, is he gonna what? Think back on it, the cop perspective didn't really advance like the witch mystery in a sense. I guess the tweaker did, but the different perspectives were also fun in a way because we got to see the teacher bar meeting from two perspectives.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering that it's like, okay, so this is how the teacher remembers it. This is how the cop remembers it. Would I be right in interpreting it?
Well, the
that
same
way?
thing happens in both scenes. Like
There are a
beat
few
for
where
beat.
lines are a little different or deliveries are a little different. I think, and that comes along with like different coverage, right? But I think that
Yeah,
works
it's
pretty
different coverage.
effectively.
That's one of the. But I think you're meant to believe, aside from like subtle deviations in the way the line is delivered, because it's from a different take, because we're looking at it from a different angle. I think you're meant to believe that we're not seeing two different versions of events. We're just seeing this new one from just from a different angle in the scene. And because I don't think it's supposed to be how she remembers it. I don't think they're unreliable narrators, is I guess what I'm getting at here.
Right.
It's not like a full-on Rashomon effect of like changing the
I think it
dialogue
is
and
like
everything.
that bar meeting is like an objective thing that happened. It's just when we're watching it the second time, we know a bit about how his day has gone leading up to it, and so it changes how he's acting because it reveals that a lot of things he says are lies as well. So like it's just
Yeah. So someone is asking as well, like, so Paul's perspective. Oh, and you asked too. Paul's perspective, like, is it necessary? And I think that the things that it adds narratively don't involve like the overall, like the A plot with the witch, but they do give you the perspective of like what's going on in the police station a little bit. It gives you a sort of a believable way to get the the cops on screen and to sort of have an insider's perspective of what's going on in the police station. And it also sets up the conflict with the tweaker,
which is very important.
Yeah, very important. And like someone mentions, like it explains why he can't just go to the police station, but it gives us a little bit of like a cat and mouse B plot to carry the middle part of the movie.
That,
which I thought was kind of fun.
And the other thing it does is it fleshes out Justine's character because we get to see how she acts and how she carries herself. Not in a professional setting and with someone she already knows. And like, her relationship with him is really fascinating. And like when they're driving in the car the next morning after they have sex, like that conversation is really important for fleshing out her character as well. And then his general sort of sense of like helplessness. And not that he's helpless, but he feels like he's just not in control of anything that's happening to him. Like everything, like life is just happening to him no matter what he does. And the sort of like way he handles that, I do think is broadly on theme with everything that's happening in the movie in general.
When I said like this is their perspective and etc. Like I mean in the sense of like obviously when a person says something that's in stone. Like they did say this line this way, but we kind of like human memory is funny. Like we kind of remember certain events more so than the others. We focus more on certain events. So that's why I was like interested, like because we're shown the teacher and cop seen together, and what was emphasized in the cop section was the sex, but with the teacher. It was the waking up after the fact. I'm just kind of like interpreted like, oh, she remembers this more, he remembers this more, kind of thing.
I can see what you mean about that. Not that it's like two different kind of subjective perspectives, but just that like when we're following each character, the details that we're shown are more relevant to how they're feeling and thinking and how it affects their story in particular. Like because the sex that he has with her, even though he lied about not being with Donna at the moment, like that's more important to his story and where that's going.
Yeah.
James is phobic. You need to respect that. Yeah. James is such a fun character to throw into the mix here. Like so first of all, I
didn't. Oh, sorry. I didn't even know tweakers do this. Like open car doors around the street. I mean, I've heard.
I mean, it's just a criminal thing, but yeah.
Dude, they do that in my neighborhood all the time. Like there are people who just like walk by and try. Like they
Yeah,
The
because if someone
cardinal.
happens
Yeah,
to
man,
hit
you-
the card
just
or,
like that.
you know.
You just do it on the off chance that someone accidentally left their car unlocked in a hurry, right?
Yeah, and like sometimes you find an iPad, and sometimes you find like a meth pipe, and sometimes like who knows what sometimes you find a baby and you can sell that. There's a lot of.
I mean, here in the UK, you normally go to car parks, you smash the window if you see a sat nav, grab that, and Bob's your uncle, you're gone, kind of thing. But it's just in here, I was just surprised. Wow, he's so brazen, opening car doors around the street. Like he
Yeah.
must be really desperate. That's what kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
struck me about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude,
So I
like, I
think-
loved
Go ahead.
the dialogue between him and his brother on the phone, where he's
Yes.
like raving about how he's like, "Hey, I got a job, but I need some money so that I can buy some clothes, so that I
shoes
can,
so I can go to
yeah.
the job, and so I
go
can
to
make the money, and so I can pay back mom. Hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah. I feel like I wasn't
Oh.
clear enough. In
Oh my god, I love that. It's so funny. So he's on the phone, he's trying all the doors, and then his brother hangs up on him because he sees right through his scheming, right? His drug desperation induced scheming. And then he finds a car that does actually have that is unlocked, and then he finds like a child's sort of like CD MP3 player type thing, and he goes to try and pawn that at a local pawn shop. But like as he's walking away with the backpack and he's like, hey, so I feel like I wasn't communicating myself very clearly when I was talking about how I need to make money so I can go get the job so I can keep making money. So if you just want to call me back I think I can communicate that a little more effectively this time. Thank you. Like, so funny, man. His performance is great. I feel like he nails that. And so
Dude,
what I love so much about his character is that, first of all, I had no idea he was going to be a component of the story at all. Like I knew about the teacher, I knew about the angry dad.
We see him in the teacher scenes at one point.
Yeah, he's
I
outside.
think.
Yeah,
He's
when-
outside
yeah,
the 7-Eleven, and he asks her because he's forgotten who she is by the time she goes in and out of the store.
Yeah.
He asks her twice, "Can I get? I'm trying to save up some money for a bus ticket so I can go see my brother. Could you spare some change, please?" And that's like his full
He says
addition.
no. And then he's like, oh, okay, you have a blessed day then.
He's deliberately revealed initially as a seemingly nothing character, right?
Exactly.
But then there's a chapter dedicated to him, and he's actually the guy who stumbles across the entire scheme.
It's
right?
so funny.
Unwittingly. He doesn't even intend to it. He doesn't even care after the fact.
Yes.
He only cares about the reward. That's all he gives a shit about.
It's so fucking funny. It's so funny, like in terms of like karmically, just as how the story plays out, that he of all people is the one who discovers this, and he sees the children, but he's so wrapped up in his own drug addiction and his scheming to get money that he doesn't care about the kids at all.
Yeah.
And it's played for a laugh, obviously. Like when we see the $50,000 reward, we tilt down and we see the different faces of the missing kids, and then it tilts right back up to the $50,000 reward. Like that's all he cares about.
Just like when his mouth opens a little bit, like he does a little like. Pop.
How do I collect the money exactly? I can't go at the police station necessarily. They make me uncomfortable. I'm phobic.
Phobic of police.
It's so funny, and he's such a little like liar and schemer and stuff. Like when Paul sees him trying to break into somewhere, and then he chases him down.
I believed him for a second when he was like, "Oh no, that's my warehouse." Yeah,
that's my warehouse. I just forgot my keys, man. It's like, yeah, right, dude. And then he like I'm not gonna find anything sharp in your pockets, am I? It's like, no, man. And then he does. He's like pricks his finger on a needle, like a used needle in his pocket, and he's like, God damn it! And he punches him
in the face
because he's just so mad about it. And he like, he goes to the car and he's like trying to get the blood out and everything. But like he's such a little scumbag, and so like it's really believable, and he's very well characterized, and his performance is great. And there's something obviously very sort of funny in a narrative sense that he's the one to unwittingly stumble upon what's actually happening here and not really care about the kids at all, because he's just so wrapped up in his own schemes and his own plans and what he needs.
Still goes back to collect all the silverware. And an interesting thing too, Oiled and Lube Phalanx is saying, I thought James would have been Alex's loser older brother. He gave me very Jesse Pinkman kind of like in early seasons of Breaking Bad, I definitely thought that might have been coming at one point. Like that's his parents' house, and like he realizes that they're not home. But yeah, I'm glad it didn't go that way, but it could have, and I think it
could have, and there's a way to make that work as well. Also, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, "Loser Paul, I would have accepted Donna's breeding." I'm happy for you.
Yes.
I'm happy for you. I think he doesn't like how Donna seems to like domineer his life and all the choices he makes.
Yeah,
his
steak is too juicy and his lobster tail is too buttery. This woman cares too much about whether or not he relapses into alcoholism, and
yeah. But and also I think he's James is the clearest example of the sort of like, because this is, you could describe what happens to people when the witch takes control of them with a number of different terms. You could call them zombies, you can call them weapons, you can call them,
puppets.
like hosts, puppets, but like they're possessed essentially, and and they're possessed, and they're like gripped by an agency that is acting upon them that they have no control over, right? And that metaphor just kind of is the sort of uniting theme that pulls all these people's stories together. With maybe the exception of the principal, who doesn't really have anything like that in terms of a flaw. You know what I mean? He's just a normal guy.
His flaw is he speaks too much in therapy talk and lingo.
That's true. And he eats too many hot dogs. 7 hot dogs, even between 2 people, that's a lot. Yeah,
I can eat 7 hot dogs.
That's not good. Yeah, so I was really pleasantly surprised with James's whole arc and his inclusion, because there's a lot of levity that comes from just how scummy he is, and like the scenes involving him are pretty fun and interesting. I was lucky enough to work one day on this movie as a PA, and it was for the car stunt driving stuff when Paul is chasing after James in the cop car. I got to work with the stunt unit. Just like that's the scene I worked on. Yeah, it was fun. I mostly just was there to make sure no one was in the roads when the cars drove by, so no one died. But I suppose that's an important job in and of itself. But I really like the way those scenes were shot in terms of like the perspective from inside the cop car as it's whipping around corners and all that. And it's kind of shaking as it drives. It's great.
Another thing, like in this similar story, or in this storyline, is when the junkie James is trying to get out of the house when he's being chased around by the zombie parents at the end, and the camera's on the door, and he tries to open it, and like it swings back, and then it hits the lock, swings back again as it closes, and he has to unlock it, and then it swings back again and reveals where they are and how close they've gotten to catching him as he leaves. It's great. There's a lot of really cool.
Oh, the camera work is so good in this. So good. So a couple examples. One that just popped up in the trailer on screen. When in the opening narration, when the narrator is describing how and they all disappeared. Well, all but one. Like we're following from sort of like waist level Justine as she sort of walks into the empty classroom, and we don't realize until she finally stops walking and the camera just moves a little further that she's been covering up where Alex is sitting the whole time. So it's a great little visual reveal that he's still there, because it's great to do that, because it also sort of waits until the narrator gets to that detail to reveal it. Also, a lot of great camera work where, like, for example, Alex is coming down the stairs. This is in his section later in the movie, sees his parents at the table. This is going to be the big scene where Gladys tells him, "You're not to tell anyone about me. If you tell anyone about me, I'll make your parents eat each other," right? So this is a pretty hefty scene for Alex. He comes down the stairs. We see his parents at the table. He turns to look, and the camera comes a little further from behind Alex's body again to reveal Gladys sitting at the table. There's so many great little moments like that where the camera is like waiting to reveal things.
Most engaged with Alex's perspective, because it gives us the closest perspective on the witch, and throughout the eyes of a child kind of thing. I don't envy the kid at all. I was really worried at the start of the film that he's going to be some supernatural being that's behind these disappearances, that he's evil or something. But I'm glad they didn't go that direction, and I was really excited with it.
And so he's like the prisoner of this monster just as much. Yeah.
Yeah, and he like some of the most horrifying stuff in the movie comes from like imagining yourself in his perspective, right? Like when he's like, God, when she's trying to demonstrate to him that like this is what can happen if you break your promise not to tell anyone about me, and then they start stabbing themselves in the face with forks.
And he
like
tries to, oh God, when he tries to
Yeah.
stop his dad from doing it,
But he can't do it.
Yeah.
It's such a like a fable, like, you know, of letting this fox in the hen house
Yeah.
with the witch, and
there's a very Grimm Brothers fairy tale thing happening with the like mysterious, nefarious, like female aunt relative who's a witch and like who's like perverting the sort of natural order of things in the household and in the family. And like, yeah, it's great, but he can't really do anything about it. He's kind of powerless. It's so fucking good. And like, for example, that he has to like now feed them soup.
Yep.
Right, like
I'm glad they don't mention how they poo or go to the toilet. I'm glad we skipped that part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking that when they walk in at the end, you know, I'm just like, that house must smell like absolute shit. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing he's seen them soup out of all things, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like the first scene where we see Alex have to try and open the can of soup himself, and he like doesn't really know how to use a can opener. I'm just like, oh, you poor fucking kid, man. He's like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just something so like innocent and helpless about him. Like,
now he's the grown up in the house.
Yeah, being thrust into the role of an adult. Exactly.
Yeah. And Ruby mentions that like in that scene where she's threatening him, she says, "Are you watching?" Like right before she does the spell, and like that has a great like double effect, right? One is that she wants to make sure that he's paying attention to the stakes and the threat, right? But the other thing it does is tell the audience, like, are you paying attention to how this spell works? Because this is going to be important later. And it becomes important later when Alex uses the spell against her. I'm just like, that's just such a great touch. Yeah. I love that like because he's watching this the whole time, finally gets the opportunity to like use her own magic against her at the end.
I was like,
it's really satisfying.
Smart boy. I was like, I didn't know you're gonna do this out of all things, but yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that, but you're right. That's great. I love that. Yeah.
Like the way he like instantly sort of hatches the plan too, right? Like he realizes what's happening and like taps his foot over the salt line, and then, you know, like outmaneuvers his zombie parents around to get into the room with the tree, and like because he knows what he needs to do, right? He grabs the wig to get the hair off of it from the inside. Smart kid, loved it.
Well, he doesn't get it from the wig; he gets it from the thin gray hairs that she did.
Yeah, no, he pulls one of the hairs out of the wig.
Out of the wig, yeah. There was just a point in the chat where someone asked if it was the wig's hair. It's not the wig's hair. It's her it's like her spindly gray hair.
Yeah, but he realized must have gotten stuck in there. So smart kid, love it. I love a smart protagonist.
And that's something really heartbreaking about, because you know. Like there's obvious sort of little parallels you could draw to like a kid in an abusive home, right? In terms of like
grow up quickly,
well, he has to grow up quickly, but then also when he's at school and he's become really quiet and isolated from the other kids, and Justine like knows that there's something off about him, but like tries to get him to talk about it, but he won't, and is just being really kind of cagey. There's something really sort of heartbreaking about that. It feels very real. In a way that's kind of difficult to stomach, especially like the scene where like he's ordered by Gladys to go get something personal from all the other kids. He ends up ripping the sort of hand-drawn and colored name tags from their little cubbyhole bin things, and in the process of doing that, which I think he thinks it's the only way to get rid of her, because once she's cured again of whatever sickness, right, that is the reason she has come here, allegedly. I mean, that is kind of true, but like that sort of sickness, he thinks that, you know, whatever she does, it like will give her the energy and that she'll leave. And he kind of, whether he really ultimately believes her or not, he really hopes it's true, right? So he's willing to go steal something from all the kids. He doesn't really know exactly what's going to happen, but maybe you can think deep down he does kind of assume that he's putting the other kids in danger. So there's a lot of guilt there. And when Justine kind of interrupts him, almost catches him in the act, and like, hey, like, you know, you can talk to me, right? and he's just like it's a really good performance from the kid.
Yeah.
I would say he's incredible in the movie because like there's just so much behind his eyes that you can tell he would like wishes he could say, but he just can't because he thinks he's going to get his family killed if he does. And it's like, ugh, heartbreaking, man. That's why his section is like some of the best stuff in the movie. A, because it finally reveals what's happening in a way that I actually think is rather compelling and satisfying and doesn't like just spoil all the fun of the mystery. It's like, oh fuck, there's a witch. Oh yeah, because then the movie becomes about like, well, how are we going to resolve it? You know, because there's still a lot of expectation there, but also because his story is really sort of tragic and compelling.
Well, I think it's the situation is relatable because even though, like, I mean, in this movie it's a witch, but in real life it could be some domestic abuse situation, right? Where the kid just doesn't want to go into detail, but the teacher is saying, "Look, you can tell me about anything, really. If anything's happening, you could tell me," and the kid just won't do it.
Yeah,
out of some feeling of like betraying their own family because they're family, despite how dysfunctional they are, or how detrimental to his life his situation is. They just won't do it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's this movie it does a really good job, I think, of like balancing like some truly insanely goofy shit and like really horrifying like character drama. You know what I mean? Like it's just it strikes that balance that I find really compelling, and like this is what I want out of this kind of movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I honestly can't remember the last film I watched where I was that engaged, that into what each character says.
Yeah.
Definitely. Fascinating stuff.
Ruby in the chat mentions that Creger based it off his own experience living with alcoholic parents. I had not heard that. I did know that Zack Creger himself struggled with alcoholism for a bit and that he's sober now, but I didn't know that about his family life. If that's true, that's interesting, and I think it's informing perhaps what's happening here.
I did,
and the honesty and I would say the like the realism of how it's portrayed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very good. I did also want to say, Fraglimit said the ending reminds me vaguely of a fairy tale where the kids end up pushing the witch into the oven or something like that. So one of the things I forgot I wanted to mention this when we were talking about the ending. And the tone that it takes with like the kids ripping her apart with the music. So for me it reminded me very much because I've read a lot of Grimm's fairy tales over this past year, right? And so many of them, the happy ending is like, and then they took the evil queen and they put hot iron shoes on her and made her dance herself to death in front of everybody, and everybody was happy. The end. It's like so like the way like that's the good ending, right? Is like like that was framed very much as like
the horrible evil person got their just desserts.
Yeah, in an incredibly brutal and like fucked up kind of way. So I think it did a very good job with that. It was
what I love so much about it is that it has the extremely cathartic, retributive sort of like, well, she got what was coming to her, but also like, so we get the satisfaction of that. And we even take a little bit of joy in how funny the scene looks, you know? And like the music is actually like surprisingly like happy and cathartic at the moment she's being like completely obliterated. But then we have the aftermath where we go right back into but the impact on these people in this community is going to be something that they might actually never really fully recover from. And so it's like it's the best of both worlds for me, where it's like we you know, the villain got what was coming to her, but the aftermath and the effects, we're not just going to sweep those under the rug or pretend like everything's fine now, because it's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think like to add to the point on catharsis, I think it's added to in a meta sense because, you know, I think on set, those kids probably had a fucking whale of a time with like blood spraying in their faces and shit, and the director's saying, "Okay, you're tearing the switch apart, action!" And the fucking blood is spraying in their faces. They're screaming. Like they probably had a lot of fun with that, you know. I think that adds a little bit to it as well.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like it would have been fun to act as one of the possessed people in this movie, with the weird
Yeah.
run and everything. I don't know. It just seems like it'd be a blast.
Well, there is something oddly and sort of eerily, contrastingly, like playful about the airplane arms.
Yeah,
Yes.
Where they're running
like you
around.
imagine them going meow.
Yeah, right. But then the grown-ups are doing it too, not just the
Yeah.
kids, right?
Mhm.
So it's just like that is weird to see an adult doing that in particular.
Yeah.
Kids is one thing.
Oh
right?
yeah, it's like the way that Benedict Wong Marcus is dressed also when he's doing this and chasing Justine down, right? He's wearing like Mickey Mouse shirt that looks like maybe a size too small, so it kind of like accentuates his like bell-shaped figure, right? So like he looks like a giant child running around in a Mickey Mouse shirt and sweatpants, and it's really fascinating how these.
It's funny and it's creepy, but it also fits this general theme of like, there's a number of images of like the sort of like healthy relationship or dynamic between parents and children and adults and children being inverted and messed with and fucked with. There's Archer who's sleeping in his son's bed, and he's like not sleeping in the bed with his wife anymore, and he's sort of like become a little bit childlike in his sort of obsession with this, and he just wants to connect with his son. Obviously it makes perfect sense, but then there's Benedict Wong in his like kind of childish like pajamas that he's wearing on a lazy Sunday afternoon, and then there's like Gladys herself is like in this like is dressed like maybe how a child might dress herself, you know what I mean? It's just so out there and bizarre. And then obviously I already mentioned like Alex like having to feed his parents and everything, but there's a lot of images of that throughout. So it feels very coherent, like it functioning on multiple levels, I would say.
Yeah.
I like seeing Marcus, not chronologically earlier, but like when he's like about to attack Julia, he's wearing the Mickey Mouse shirt with his face covered in blood and trying to kill her. Like that's an amusing contrast.
Oh, and the meal he's eating with his husband, boyfriend, whoever, is like something a child would like think is like a great meal. 7 hot dogs and 3 cookies and chips,
like
and
some chips and dip and some carrots.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I
don't know.
So, like you're when you're watching that for the first time, Wong just sprinting at the teacher, you're as shocked and as surprised as the teacher themselves. Like, what the hell am I even seeing here? This random person just charging at me, because you have no context for it yet. Whatsoever.
You can see a great little moment. It happens so quickly, but like he's making a beeline for her, and then you can see her recognize who it is, like right at the last second, right before he's on top of her. There's that little moment where it's like, who is that? Who's running? Holy shit, is that Marcus? Like I don't know. Like a lot of the performances in this movie are really, really good, and just little subtle moments like that. They're doing a lot.
That's a real benefit to the non-linear structure of this as well, where you can have moments like that where it's just like, what the fuck is he doing? Right? We've seen that guy before. And now he's just like covered in blood and just with a Mickey Mouse shirt on.
Because like at that point, the last time we've seen him is when she's, the last time we've seen him is when he's putting her on a forced leave of absence, right? And then we've seen her from her perspective going about her life, and then the next thing we know, he's charging her at a gas station dressed like a child with blood and black goo all over his face. And
trying to kill her.
You're right. Yeah, that's a very deliberate contrast, I think. Yeah,
and it's only through
it's awesome
through his chapter later that we get some more context of it. So like it really lets you sit with the mystery the way he decided to chop it up, and I like, and he does it a lot, right? Like it begins with like the witch on the car. You're like, oh, somebody painted witch on the car, and then you like get the context clues through Archer's chapter later, where like, oh, the paint was there. Okay, that makes sense. And it like he keeps adding to it as it as it goes on. Like, why is James coming back to the police station? Oh shit. Okay, that's why.
Right. Yeah.
It's very well structured, and I think for the most part, I was really trying to pay attention to the timeline and how exactly it all lays itself out on a rewatch. I think for the most part it holds up really well, but there is one moment in particular that stuck out to me as like oh, they didn't nail that. So at one point, after James has told Paul, like, please don't shoot me with a shotgun. Well, because he's chased after him, he catches up to him in the tent, and then James stabs him with 3 needles directly into the face. And so Paul is like ready to fucking kill him at this point. And he's like, no, don't, please don't kill me. I can tell you where those kids are. Right. So then they go to the house, and Paul decides to leave him in the car, and he goes in, and he doesn't come out until the next morning. So like James is stuck in the car the whole time, just the whole night waiting for something to happen. He's trapped back there. And then when Paul comes out in the morning, or actually no, it's still the night, or it's like, or maybe it's early morning. I can't remember.
It's dark out. He comes back out. Yeah, it's dark, and he pulls him out of the car and drags him in.
Right. Okay. Right. So in the middle of the night, he comes out to get him, and he's all zombified now, and he's grunting at him, and he's pulling him back into the house. Right. So his car is still out there. Right. And then there's a scene when we're in Alex's storyline where he comes home, sees the cop car there, and it's empty. So like James isn't in there. He goes inside, and he sees and is surprised by the cop and James being in the house. But he should have seen that cop car when he came home from school the previous day. Like, he should not be surprised by the police officer. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, because he showed like the cop car. That's like before he would. Is there a way where the timeline would line up that like Alex would already be in the house? Oh, well, because if he's already in the house, then he would have known the cop was there. Yeah, unless he's just like hiding in his room. But he would have come out if he heard somebody. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is like when the police show up, it's during they show up during the daytime. He goes into the house. When it's nighttime, he comes out to go get James. And then somehow it's not until the next day when he comes home from school that Alex notices that there's a cop car there.
What you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. That just doesn't line up, unfortunately. It's not hugely consequential because the only thing that results from it is Alex looking at them and going, hello, and then sort of realizing that they're zombified. Yeah. So if he came home and just simply wasn't surprised by that, it wouldn't really affect anything, and it would solve the problem. But it is just sort of like that piece doesn't quite line up in terms of how you've, there are things like that I like that you can point to. But I think for the most part, it all lines up fairly well. I think for all these lines to intersect the way they do, mostly what it relies on are some coincidences, not like any outright plot holes, I would say.
Real J. Jameson. Actually, first, let's get the super chat. Ruby says, I've heard some people say that it felt like 2 separate movies, but I didn't get that. What do you guys think? I didn't think it felt like 2 different movies.
No,
I think it all lines up pretty well, falls together.
I think it all, but it's certainly, there is a shift that happens from before you know what the mystery is to like after you know.
Yeah.
So like your interest, it changes. Like the questions you're hoping to see answered are different now. It's not what's happening, but like how is it going to be resolved? I don't think they feel like 2 different movies. I think there's plenty of components and things that all sort of tie together in a way that feels coherent, that it doesn't feel like, for example, something like From Dusk Till Dawn, which takes like a hard right turn halfway through the movie. You know what I mean? Where like that does, for all its, charms, does feel like 2 movies stitched together at the hip. You know what I mean? This, I think this all feels pretty coherent, I would say.
Well, I went into it. Oh,
go ahead. No, you go ahead first, please.
There is something about that you just said, like going into it. I was kind of like expecting, like a missing persons case. That the film was going to more so focus on the missing kids, on how the parents individually feel. There's this kind of absence, not knowing any answers, that slowly drives you insane. And we obviously see that with parents and family blaming the teacher, and you just try to justify it with all sorts of. So it was interesting to kind of see that mystery, that curse of not knowing, and then we do get an answer. It's a witch, and it gets more like a fable. horror kind of aspect. So there is something to that there's like it morphs into the film, but I kind of like that. It gives us an answer. It doesn't kind of like show off that it's a mystery. Oh, look at this mystery. Look at me shaking my keys. It's a mystery, and you'll never get the answer. But you do get the answer, which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah. A couple things in the chat. Let's see.
The one thing
JJ...
that I wanted to address was the thing, nobody investigates an officer not coming back. And the reason that I can buy that with this is that I think it's like pretty much a day, right? And the police chief is his father-in-law, or, you know, soon to be father-in-law, who clearly has heard about the spiral that his life has taken in the recent days, right? Like, he gave him
he cheated on his
daughter. And he knows that he was stuck with an AIDS needle as well. So like he's pretty well aware that this is not going well for Paul. So I can kind of see, like, if somebody's like, hey, Paul didn't come back, he took the car and he's out, he's not scheduled to work tonight, I'd just be like, we'll give him a day. I think we let him, like, I don't want to think about that. Give him some time. We'll deal with that.
Or
later.
that they just, like, because it all happens very quickly. I mean, it feels like a long time because we jump around from so many different people's perspectives, but it's really not many days at all, the whole thing. And so, like, he's gone for a night, and then the next day is when everything in the finale happens. Yeah. So it's like he's sort of disappeared, and they sort of know he's probably on a bender somewhere. They don't really know where he is. And I don't think there's any reason to believe a neighbor would see a cop car parked in front of that house and, like, say anything about it. You know what I mean? They'd just be like, "Oh, that's weird."
Oh, yeah. The cops are doing some follow-ups on that again, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a million reasons. And then the other thing is, Jay Jameson says, it's a small town, people would ask. I think that's one of the things that's important about it being set in the modern era, is that, no, they wouldn't probably. Like, there's a lot, like, people are, this is not all that small of a town, right? It's the suburbs. It's not rural, This is the suburbs. I live in the suburbs. I actually, like, live in a neighborhood not very much unlike where this takes place, because this is filmed in Georgia. And so, like, I know some of my neighbors, but not really all that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, especially in the modern era, especially post-COVID, right? Like, I just think there's way more social isolation where, like, it's not like small town from the 80s where, like, everyone would know each other and, like,
you have your neighbors over to dinner every week, or like
every
other week, something like that. Like,
I
know my neighbors well enough to say hi every now and then, or to wave when I get home.
Or to wave, right? But, like, and there's even an explanation given, for example, like, why they have newspapers up in their windows, because it's like, well, probably they put, like, you can reasonably assume that they didn't want people being nosy and, like, looking in, and so they've become recluses. But, like, you wouldn't say anything about it necessarily. You wouldn't check up on them necessarily if you don't have, like, a lot of strong relationships with these people. And they make it pretty clear that, like, especially when Archer is talking to some of the other parents that he's literally never talked to before in a whole month, it's like, these people aren't close.
Yeah, really. And like, the other thing too, right, is that even in a small town, you, like, if people were talking, the disappearance of 17 children and no answers would make everybody kind of distrustful of each other, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that happens. That's a pretty common recorded phenomenon. Like, if a murder happens in a small town, or if I learned about this place, Delphi, Indiana, where 2 girls went missing, and people were like, they mobilized, but they were all very distrustful of, what was, like, what had happened, right? Like, especially as they figured out that they'd been killed. So 17 disappear, and there's no answers for a month. Like, everybody's going to be a little cagey, I think, with each other. I think that's pretty believable.
Do you think the modern sort of social media environment contributes to even a small town feeling disconnected all of a sudden, like, despite its size, like the fact that social media is now like a modern trend, like, even a small town feels like disassociated with each other, all the residents of it.
I think that sort of thing has had an effect, right? I don't think people have the relationships with their neighbors that they used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it just seems to be the case. I mean, not everywhere, and not with every some people like I do have some like pretty close friends that are my neighbors, but a lot of them I couldn't tell you their names. I've literally never spoken to them. I might wave when I see them. That's about it. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah, I get it.
my neighborhood is as kind of suburban as the one in the movie, essentially.
Yeah. No, because I think there's some truth to that. Yeah, I think like the whole social media dynamic has such an influence that even a small town that felt sort of that had some kind of you know like cohesion
Yeah.
all of a sudden isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I mean that certainly happens. Like Hugh, you mentioned one example. One of my favorite books of all time is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. It's about a murder that takes place in the 1950s, I think, in Kansas. And there's a prominent family, a bunch of kids, very successful father, church-going, pillars of the community, who is murdered by two random guys not from that town at all, who are just passing through. They're hoping to rob him. They end up killing the whole family, right? Horrible, horrific crime, right?
Really
But for a long
happened,
time,
yeah.
and it really happened. And before they knew who did it, like everyone just naturally assumed it must have been someone that knew him, because like why it seemed so personal, right? And so that like fear just destroyed the town. Like, people moved away. Like, just that town wasn't the same ever again as a result of this, like, and so like that, like I mean, it's not a small crime murdering a whole family, but like one thing like that can destroy an entire town. You know what I mean? That it happens a lot. And like this, I have no problem believing completely destroyed any sort of like community cohesion that they really had. It probably would have like flared up in the immediate aftermath. Like we see some stuff like they have a vigil, they have all these candles and teddy bears and stuff outside the school. But then like after a month, I think it was wise of the story to start a month later, because you get to see like how things really look when the dust is more or less settled, like, because people mention the reporters that they don't really factor into things as much after a month has passed. You know what I mean? They probably would have immediately for sure. But we pick up things. Go ahead.
You touched on something there that I find really interesting. That idea of like a devastating event sort of obliterating a small town.
Yeah.
More than it would like a city.
Yeah.
Because like there was a cohesion there, but this event is so terrible that like this element of the social fabric, it almost has like a more widespread effect because there was such cohesion there, and now it's just like nobody trusts anybody. That's interesting.
I think maybe they could have. It would have been nice to see a little bit more of that in this, but there's still plenty of enough there to like assume that that's kind of happening, right? And we see it a little bit, but like, because it's like you see a little bit of it in the first like meeting with all the parents, where like they're almost whipped up into a mob, right? There's a little bit of a parallel to that scene in Gone Girl where he's trying to give the vigil and someone reveals that she was pregnant and they all start chasing after him. There's like, it's filmed very similarly as well.
Right.
There's actually a number of little similarities to Gone Girl in this, just in terms of the visual language in the very, very beginning. Anyway, but like we see the sort of a group of concerned parents sort of like almost whipped up into a mob where they're not really thinking rationally, but they're just like, we know that she must have something to do with it because we don't have anything else to latch on to, right?
Mob mentality, yeah. They need someone to blame.
They need someone to blame, and like, she's trying to say like, hey, I love those kids. I want answers as much as you do, but like nothing she can say would be something that she wouldn't say if she was guilty also in their minds. You know what I mean? So it's just like kind of hopeless.
Yeah.
But before we get off that point that was just mentioned, that idea of like looking for someone to blame, I feel like this whole thing with the witch, there's a little bit of wish fulfillment here, in a way, where it's like when something terrible happens, like for instance, if there was a school shooting where a bunch of kids all of a sudden just,
not there anymore.
We're not there the next day. There is an inclination to want to be able to point the finger at some kind of boogeyman. right?
Especially
Versus
one thing, not like a coalescing of a number of different factors, but it'd be great
Right.
if there was one thing we can blame.
because often
Or
the truth
one
is
of them
more
were bad
tragic and
parents and stuff like
complicated,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
But
go ahead and say that again, John.
often the truth is more tragic and complicated. But
Yeah.
with this, there's a bit of almost Tarantino-esque wish fulfillment, kind of like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with the whole Manson
A little
murders
bit.
thing, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Where it's like, what if it was just a witch that was fucking with the town? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it's almost like, oh, it's just a witch. Like, it's almost like a bit of relief, where it's just like, okay, it's a witch. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I quite like that sort of meta angle to it.
Yeah, I can see that. That there is something, that there is a little bit of a fantastical, a fantasy playing out here a little bit in the narrative that ultimately, I mean, it's not so wish fulfillment-y that everything is kind of neat at the end and everyone gets a happy ending, but it is
Yes.
like there is just an evildoer that we can destroy, and that would, rid the town of the evil, right? We can
Yes.
just destroy
Just-
her, and the consequences will be felt forever. But like,
With I think with anything tragic, there is a tendency to point fingers, right? And if you're pointing
sure.
fingers, ideally you want to point fingers at one thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Just way
that
simpler that
thing.
way.
That's the thing. Oh, it's the witch. Oh, well, let's just kill the witch then, right?
Yeah. But what is sort of interesting in terms of like a little nuance in that is that like it is one person, but it is controlling and possessing other people to do its bidding.
Yes.
So, there's like the movie presents a number of things that can possess people and cause them to act not in their own self-interest, or not to not be themselves anymore. And like there's fear, there's paranoia, there's alcohol and substance abuse, there's, resentment and things like that. And then there's like literal witchcraft, right? But like the one thing that like you could have put in here too, if it would have overstuffed it a bit, but another thing that would function in the same way is like ideology, right? Like there are a lot of things that can like grip and possess people's, they're like animating spirits that can like come down on people and cause them to like be caught up in something out of their control. And so there is a witch doing all this, but we see plenty of images of like how other people are weaponized by it, right? So it's not just because Paul is killed, for example, in all this, like because we have to kill him. From Justine's perspective, like there's nothing else that can be done in that moment. And it's like it's unfortunate, but like Paul is like an evil that must be destroyed in that moment. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of shades of gray around the one big bad, if that makes sense.
Well, he's been strangling her for like 5 minutes. You gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta
Like
kill
that's
him
enough of that, Paul. Give it a rest.
You're not fucking her after the bar night anymore, bud. Let's.
I really do like Archer's motivation throughout the film. Like we were just talking about, about these kids missing, about these parents needing something to blame. But I get the impression that other families like somewhat accepted, like they're gone, we're not gonna see them now.
Yeah.
But he's just compulsively not accepting it at all.
Yeah.
And it pays off for him, oddly enough.
Yeah.
To kind of keep digging.
Yeah. And it's like,
and I really like that.
it's very sympathetic, and ultimately it isn't. The movie doesn't try to say that like, oh, him being obsessed, obviously it's having an effect on his family, it's having an effect on his job, but it's hard not to be entirely sympathetic to his like his obsession with solving this, right? And ultimately he is there and does help. He doesn't do it single-handedly, but he does help bring this all to an end because of his obsession, right? And because he's not going to give up and he's just going to keep doing it, right? And this, I just speaking of his character, I really like one of the reasons his dream is so strong is because he does have that moment where like Matthew, his son, is in the bed. He's not saying anything, but he's like trying to talk to him, like, where'd you go? and then he has that moment where he tells them that he loves him, and it's very, very heavily implied that like he's never really told him that before. Like, because he's just not that kind of parent, but he's wanted to tell him. He just, it didn't feel comfortable sharing
and Matthew's the bully.
And Matthew's the
picking
bully
on Alex too, right? So like, that's a nice tie-in.
Yeah. Wasserman says month is not enough time to give up. It certainly is for some people. You just can't say that like every single, because we don't see really that many parents. Many of them are still very angry and seeking answers. The only example we see of someone who seems slightly resigned to the fact is the one he goes to visit
Justin
to get footage
Long,
from them. And Justin Long and them don't seem like they're obsessively hunting down leads all the time.
They do say though that it's difficult for them to watch the footage of the kid getting up and running away, right? Because like,
I don't think there's anything unrealistic about how they are not like Archer in the relentless, obsessive pursuing of leads. You know what I mean? Like I think a month is a long time to sit with this.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of people are saying that a month is like, for reporters in particular, right? Like no progress on an investigation for a month. The reporters have got other things to cover.
Yeah.
The cops have other jobs that, they can pad their numbers with, right? Like,
and if there's a lead, they might come back and write another thing about the story. But
at this moment, like every day for a month, it's been like, well, they have nothing, right? There's no new leads. The updates are going to start slowing down when the cops run out of things, ideas to test.
There's a really interesting thing when he goes to visit that other couple, Justin Long and his wife. When he goes to talk to them, he's like, I know we haven't really talked much, and she's like, I know who you are, like, because you made a big scene at the big school meeting, so like, we know who you are. But she's like, he asks if he can see the footage because he hears that they had Ring camera footage of their child, and he would like to see it because he wants to study it to see if he can find any information about what direction she went, right? And she's like, I don't feel comfortable sharing that, right?
And then he asks the husband.
Yeah, then he waits around until the husband comes home and asks. It's like, I'm going to ask Dad instead.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Well, that's a great detail, right? Because it shows his relentlessness and that he's just like, fuck you, I'm going to ask your husband before you get a chance to confer with him about it. And then the husband says yes. But I like her sort of like defensiveness about it. It's almost like it's too intimate to want to share with anyone else, right?
Yeah.
Like that's ours, like you can't protect the child because the child is gone, but you can like protect this. You know what I mean? Like there's something really interesting about that.
I'm sorry. So like the response in the chat there is like reporters, yes, but not parents. Were we mentioning something about like parents completely giving up or resigning themselves to this? Because like
just compared to Archer, this couple is the only one we see, and they don't seem nearly as obsessive. That doesn't mean they've like
given up entirely. Yeah, well, because like they're all still going to the meetings and like demanding answers from the teacher. They harass her out the door after they've been whipped up into a mob, right? It's not like they're doing nothing, but they're not, they're not.
They're all processing it differently than Archer.
Oh,
yeah.
And Archer just seems to be
extra
more proactive.
Obsessed.
More
proactive. Yeah. Like he
goes to the cop as well just to hear the same thing over and over again, but he still does it. He needs some kind of pattern to go to.
I love when he goes to the chief of police and he's like, I haven't heard any reports from the canine units in weeks. And he's like, that's because they don't report to you.
Yeah.
It's great. And then he's like, she has something to do with it. And he's like, what do you think she's not telling us? Like,
I really liked the police chief, by the way, just being like, it's like, okay, like I'm going to, because he took the meeting, and he even says as much, right? He's like, I don't mind doing these meetings with you because God knows if it was my child, like that's what I would want, right? I would want answers. I would want everything. And he says, no, that woman has something to do with it. He's like, well, not that we can see, but what are you seeing that I'm not? Tell me what it is. Like he's being. I love the way that they frame it as like him being like, no, look, I'm willing to listen. Tell me something that isn't just an obsessive, like, no, I know, I have a gut feeling, right? It's like, because we've looked into it and we can't find anything. She knows
something,
no more than we do.
Something even more explicit about like what do you think she's not telling us? Because no one forced those kids out.
Yeah.
We've seen the video. They just ran out of their own volition. Like it's almost like what he doesn't say is like, do you think she's a witch? Like what could she possibly have done? Like how could it possibly be her? You know what I mean? Because one of the things he's throwing all this stuff at her, like, oh, did you know that she was let go from her other school? And it's like
for inappropriate relations, and it was just like, yeah, with a staff member.
But
yeah, she fucked another teacher there. You're like, that's the, it's hardly incriminating in this case. You know what I mean? And then one of the other things,
especially for a teacher.
Yeah.
And one of the things she's chastised for. One of the things she's chastised for by Marcus, the principal, is like, he's like, you've had like, it's just a bad look because you've had inappropriate relationships with students before. It's like it's not appropriate to hug a student. And she's like, I hugged a crying kid. Fucking sue me. You know what I mean? Like she has like normal sort of, I don't know, maternal instincts. Like she gave a kid a ride home in the rain once, and that's like on her record because you're a teacher, you can't do that. And she's like, fucking hell, like, what am I supposed to do? Not give him like, come on, guys. Like, she's like bumping up against these sort of like bureaucratic rules, right?
And that's another thing that I think might have been like out of place if this movie had taken place in the 80s, right? Because that feels like something in an 80s movie that might have been more common, like with a teacher to do something like that with a student.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, everybody looks sideways at it. But
increased regulation. It's just like that's something that you just don't do, right? But she's like, it's like, what am I supposed to leave the kid out in the rain? Like I get the frustration.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I wanted to bring up something earlier. I don't know, maybe if you current point before I get to that.
No, go for it.
Okay, you were bringing up earlier the idea of the one mother being protective of the footage. That was something that kind of bothered me in the movie, but I think you're right about that. That's really interesting. Where like that's like the one thing she has left, like in regard to her kid.
Yeah,
who
or
she's
something
just,
like
I guess,
that.
has accepted she's gone. The kid is gone now. I don't know if it was a boy or a girl that she had.
Yeah.
But
there's just something kind of a little too intimate and personal about like showing that footage. I don't. There's something about that in her response where she's like, I'm not comfortable. She kind of crosses her arms. It's very defensive posturing. It's like
even Arthur watches it on repeat, his own.
So I think you're right about that.
I had a connection with it. Yeah.
I think it is a natural reation, but it's not the reaction I would have had. I would have been like Archer. I would have been fucking autistic, looking at every fucking camera angle. Just
digital,
like, what the fuck is happening here? Right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I think, Justin Long says it explicitly that it's hard to watch, right? Because some people would have Archer's reaction where they're going to study it like it's the Zapruder film, right? And they're going to look at it from every angle, and then they're going to put out little flags and sort of chart the direction they ran. And some people are going to be like, seeing my child move and behave like that is one of the most unnerving things I've ever seen in my life. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah. The last time maybe that I'll ever see them at this point, like, it's
they're like under a spell, and it's just like, I've never seen them move or do anything like this. It's horrifying. I don't like looking at it. I don't like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like that seems very natural to me as well.
Yep. And I also like that scene where he convinces Justin Long to let him look at the footage. You just see the wife at the back of the shot, just looking pissed off,
crossed arms, glaring.
Yeah. It's so funny. And like he's like, it's kind of hard to watch. And then Archer kind of interrupts him, like, wait, go back. He's like, all right, man, Jesus, like, relax.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But he's also interested too. Like, wait, what did you see? What am I not seeing here?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then he does. I like where he's watching it. It's like really dark footage, but he's like counting the sidewalk steps, trying to gauge what direction she ran. And I like that. I like that he's the one to do this also, but because he's like a developer, and he has little town blueprints he can look at, and he has exactly the right sort of skills and profession to like make
Do this.
use of this information,
And tools, right? He's got his
Yeah.
little laser sight, right? He actually
exactly.
uses that in a visual beat. Yeah,
It's fun. It's a fun little investigation.
I would have been like him. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I understand the other perspectives. Like, in the mother in particular, since you brought it up, I think that's actually accurate. I think that's why that's there.
Yeah.
But I would have been Archer.
Yeah.
I would have been like, just let me see it. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to find this kid? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
What else are we gonna do? You know what I mean? The police aren't doing anything.
Yeah, I would definitely watch the footage too, but I definitely wouldn't have been smart enough to ask the husband. I'd be like, okay, you don't want to watch, you don't want to show me the footage out of politeness. I won't. I'll maybe go to another house, but nah, he didn't care.
He's impolite and he's like, fuck you, I'm getting this footage. And like, I admire that like determination.
The tenacity.
Right?
Yeah.
And they deliberately show Justin Long as like he's a little afraid of him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like he's taken aback by like, oh, okay,
who's this
whatever you want.
Looking Josh Brolin man coming up to me right now?
Right. Yeah.
You're Matthew's dad. Right. Yeah. Yeah. What's your what?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a man on a mission, and also he's kind of doing it on his own. He just kind of has that energy, like, if you want something done right, do it yourself, kind of thing. Even when he's fucking up at the job site, he's very quick to take responsibility, right? He's like, fuck, that's on me. That's my bad. I'll fix it. I'll take care of it. I'll do this. I'll do that. Like he doesn't tell his wife about his investigation. You know what I mean? He's just this is my thing to do. I'm doing it myself. He doesn't like try to call a meeting with the other teachers. He goes to confront Justine about it, but also like that confrontation is really funny at the gas station where like she's like I don't have anything to say to you. He's like, please, I just want to talk to you. He's like, yeah, you and everyone else in this fucking town. And then he's like, I'm not threatening you. And it's like, Josh, you are a big dude. And you are walking up on her like that you are threatening her a little bit. But it is kind of believable that he's like, I'm not threatening you. It's like, yes, you are. Yeah, you are, man. I'm sorry to say.
He is an inherently imposing figure to just walk up to you at a gas station. You'd be like, what the fuck? Yep. What? What's going on?
Yeah.
You get that sense as well when he asks for the footage as well, because, the parents know he's grieving in a sense. Like the teacher knows he's grieving in a sense. And, people, when they're like that, they can do all sorts of unpredictable stuff. So you kind of already on your edge, kind of distrustful, watching them carefully, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that we've kind of jumped around a little bit, but
I just want to think for a second. I'm just trying to remember if there's anything else like big that we haven't really talked about yet. We have sort of jumped around. Do you guys
I'll touch on one thing before we move on. Is we touched on it earlier, but like I'm glad it was brought up already because I was going to touch back on this. Was the overall camera work of everything? Because I feel like Zack Creger, I think he's one of the types that just storyboards everything thoroughly. Like he knows what his shots are. Like throughout the whole thing.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I did hear him talk about it, and what he would do is he'd go on location scouts with this cinematographer, and he's like, and it's great because there's no pressure, there's no producer, like, hey, we got to make our days, so it's just him and the cinematographer, and they walk around and they take photos, and they basically make a photo board, like a storyboard with photographs instead of like drawings. And they like they figure out all the shots. They get weird with it. They play around and they figure out what shots they like and what shots maybe we won't do that. They figure out the ones they want, and they put all the photos on a big photo board, like on an actual piece of like arts and crafts board, and they'd bring it to set and they'd have it on set and it'd be like, all right, now we're doing this one, and then they'd cross it off into big X once they got it. And so like he is very deliberate in terms of the storyboarding. And I just think that's an interesting process. I've never heard anyone do it like that, where they have a big giant board with all the shots they're going to get for the day, and then you can watch them being crossed off one by one. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a useful tool, right? And I think it started with animation, like Disney, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, we need to know exactly what every shot is so we can draw it all out, right? But then it's just like live action directors were just like, we should be doing this. Right. Well, some of them, No,
Some of them do.
I think it should be a more common occurrence. It isn't. But
No.
some directors, I think Alfred Hitchcock famously was one of the earliest adopters of it, where he's just like, let's just plan all this out on paper.
Yeah.
Why
Storyboarding,
not?
Very useful tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's
Like,
always the possibility of like discovering something in the moment, but like I think I can't remember who was describing this. I want to say it was Roger Deakins because he works with the Coen brothers a lot and they storyboard the hell out of everything they do. And he was like, people think it would be sort of limiting storyboarding everything because then there's no like spontaneity on the day to like find something like, but there absolutely is. And you're only going to find that spontaneity on the day if you've like done all the work ahead of time, because like if you have to figure out every single shot every time on the day, you're going to get decision fatigue and you're going to get really tired of having to make decisions and come up with things. So like by the end of the day, you're on hour 11 of your day and you have to figure out this new shot. And like if you already had a plan, then you might not be worn out by all the decisions you've had to make all day and you could actually find something in the moment. But like I think it's super important to do shot lists and do storyboards, and I like the idea of doing photo boards, especially because I just think it makes it a lot easier, right? Especially if you can go to locations and actually take photographs, on the different focal lengths and everything like that. Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker. Like I don't think it's going to make or break a movie necessarily, but I think it's really good to go in with a full-fledged plan.
Yeah.
And even if you end up throwing the whole plan out the window, like when you're on set and you come up with something new, it's good to go in with a complete plan.
Definitely. And it's like there's no harm in storyboarding it in detail. Like the worst you're gonna get is like maybe some shots you can't really pull off or this one or this one. But the rest work completely fine and you can basically experiment there with the shots that might not work.
There are a few directors who don't. And
David Lynch was one.
David Lynch is one. Steven Spielberg is apparently another. He's not big on.
No, he does. He does. Absolutely, he does.
Yeah.
You can find like comic level detailed storyboards of Jurassic Park and stuff like that. Yeah, he's just very Steven Spielberg. Like there are like videos and stuff you can watch of him like figuring out some shots on the day, but like they did do a lot of storyboards, especially for any VFX heavy sequences.
Okay.
But David Lynch is an example of someone who never storyboarded anything ever and just figured it out on the day. And it's like, not most people are not David Lynch. I think that's safe to say.
Oh, Christopher Nolan and David Cronenberg, those are the two. They usually don't like to storyboard, evidently. They are.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And in the case of this movie, even in shots where basically nothing happens, it could be simply just a simple reveal shot.
Yeah.
Like near the beginning, when we're the first shot of Justine, where it starts behind her and then it goes around her, and the camera, in a way, sort of like clips through like another person who's like right next to her, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I think how they did that was they actually had the guy like lean down.
Yeah.
When the camera like goes over his head, right, in order to get that side profile on Justine. Where it's just like, that's cool. Like the camera is sort of, in a way, it's like telling us. I mean, it sounds so basic because she's obviously the main character, but it's just like to add that extra detail of like going through other characters to like bring focus to this character. Like this is the person we're focusing on, right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was really
basic,
cool.
but it's super important to do, and you'd be shocked at how many movies don't understand that like it really actually matters who the camera settles on first in a movie. You know what I mean? And how you do it and how you reveal someone. Like, for example, in that opening scene, we start behind her head. We like spin all the way around to reveal her. And then in that opening sequence, we don't see Archer from the front at all. We only see him from behind. And then eventually we see the front of his head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of instances like that. Like, this person's important, but we're not on them right now. You know what I mean? So like, we're not going to see them from the front until later. But like that sort of stuff is basic, but I like in a fundamental sort of way.
Yeah.
Like, and I do really like these sort of quote unquote impossible camera moves. There's a few of them in the movie that are quite fun, that feel very David Finchery. And I did hear that David Fincher like worked with him in the editing room a little bit on this, like consulting and just telling him like what he thought about what he had so far and everything. Because I feel like you can see it in the editing of this movie. I don't know, because there's a precision to it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I was thinking of The Social Network actually, and I know the David Fincher thing, the story you brought up, because I know he worked with Zack Creger in some capacity. But I remember in The Social Network there was a similar impossible shot. I think it was during the Bill Gates talk scene, where they move the camera in such a way where they have actors like lean down so the camera can go over them.
Yeah.
In a way where it's just like when you're watching that as an audience member, you're like, this seems like a bit unnatural, and it's drawing my attention to like a particular thing, right? Whatever it's trying to get me to focus on, right? And in this case, it's Justine, and it's just like there's like that added, because the camera is willing to literally pass through people. It's just like, this is our main character, okay? Yeah. Focus on this person.
Yeah, it also contributes to an overall feeling that the camera is sort of like omniscient. You know what I mean? Like we're sort of seeing things. Like we're like an omniscient observer, like moving through these little dioramas, watching this all play out, and we're jumping because it can be a little tricky to like really pin it down, but there's definitely an overall difference between like filmmaking that tries to put you in the head of the character, like in terms of and filmmaking that tries to stand outside of the character and kind of observe as sort of like an impartial observer. And because this movie sort of jumps around from all these different perspectives, kind of has something of a God's eye view of everything, I think the camera work feeling kind of impartial as it like moves impossibly and perfectly through these different scenarios, it all kind of works. That makes sense.
And well, you brought up Gone Girl earlier, and there's definitely examples of that in Gone Girl, where the camera moves with almost this computerized precision and sophistication.
There's one shot in particular that felt extremely David Fincher-y in this movie, is when Justine is alone in her house at night and she hears the knock on the door, and the camera just like zips along sideways perfectly in parallel with the front of the house and lands like on the door. Like, I don't know, stuff like that. There's a fun joke in the chat. Jen says, directors don't have time to storyboard anymore because they're too busy finishing the script in pre-production.
Oh, God, dude. It's so embarrassing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of time and effort that's poured on set, it's just like, just finish the script, dude. Finish one draft of the script, even if it's an early draft. Just have something shootable to go in with. You know, this whole thing about like reading about the new Avengers script yet, and it's just they're just shooting scenes as they finish them. It's so fucking. Oh my god! It makes me cringe.
Be a disaster. They've learned from all the mistakes that they made moving since Infinity War and Endgame. They've definitely taken that to heart.
Well, the thing about them in particular is I think they really suffered a curse as a result of the success of Iron Man, because Iron Man was kind of like they barely had a script when they went into production, and they sort of miraculously pulled out a pretty decent movie. And I think ever since then, they're just like, yeah, we can keep doing that, right?
We can just fly by the seat of our pants.
That was a crazy fluke. You're an insane person if you think that can be your standard operating procedure.
I know. There are exceptions where it works. I mean, Die Hard was like that. I mean, like everyone says Die Hard is awesome. And it totally isn't. It's one of my favorite action movies ever. But that was an example of they didn't finish that script. They were writing that on the fly.
Yeah.
Right? And they were just like, he was writing scenes and then they would go and shoot that scene. And that was one of the rare examples of where that actually worked. But that doesn't work every time.
Like, that doesn't even work most times.
Yeah, I would argue like 80% of the time, it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah. It's a crazy amount to leave up to luck that you'll be able to just string it all together miraculously on the fly like that. Like, I know Weapons, for example, was a script that was written like a couple of years ago and was shopped around quite a bit before it was actually made. So like this had been worked on and honed for a while. And I think it shows. There's some things that are rough around the edges, some things that I wish we would have accounted for. But for the most part, this is a pretty complicated puzzle in terms of how the thing is strung together, and for the most part, it's really quite successful. So like, I find it pretty impressive, and I just don't think you can make a movie like this on the fly. I don't think you can write this on the fly as you're making it and just hope it all comes together. You need a pretty detailed blueprint for a movie like this.
Did you hear that they apparently might be making a prequel about The Witch?
I saw something like that. That does not surprise me at all that Warner Brothers wants that. Or no, is it New Line Cinema? Whoever made this movie. That like this movie is successful and they're like, oh, can we make this into a franchise? I wouldn't recommend it. I would say please just leave it alone. This is the kind of movie that has just tenable enough world building. Like, please don't add anything on top of it. It's gonna break.
Don't make a sequel to this. Just make a film, not a film like it, like some niche horror. Some maybe other concept. Maybe grown-ups go missing this time. I don't know, something.
Well, I mean, this and Barbarian have quite a bit in common. They're not. There's no reason to believe they're in like that. They couldn't be in the same world. You know what I mean? Like, just do another completely original thing. Because like Barbarian, I won't spoil for you if you haven't seen it. I think it's not as good as Weapons, but there's a lot of good stuff in it. Some frustrating things, but mostly pretty solid. And but like in terms of its narrative originality and like it takes some pretty big swings in terms of how the narrative is structured that I think are pretty fun, and it's got a lot of the same sort of like creepy comedic beats in it. So like I just want him to do another thing like that where it doesn't need to be the same world, it doesn't need to have the witch, it doesn't need to have that weird tree. Just do something. You have a pretty good track record of just making up new original stuff. So if he does a Resident Evil movie because he's really passionate about that, I hope that's good. I would love to see him just do more original horror stories like this. That's what I would love.
Was this maybe a Warner Brothers New Line Cinema joint production? Because I seem to recall that Warner Brothers did they not win the bidding war with like a $38 million bid during the auction?
I'm double checking it now, but I'm pretty sure it was produced by New Line Cinema and then distributed by Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers bought the finished film for distribution.
And was that when the bidding war was the bidding war for the script and the production rights, or was it for the distribution?
No, for the production rights.
Okay.
Because I think Jordan Peele wanted Monkey Paw Productions or whatever the name of his studio is to produce it.
Got it.
I'm pretty sure on that. I can look it up.
Apparently, he parted ways with his managers over that because he was so mad. That they didn't see the potential in the film. But I thought that was after it was made and screened. Was that just based off the screenplay?
The screenplay entered the market on January 22nd, 2023, and prompted a bidding war among Netflix, New Line Cinema, TriStar Pictures, and Universal Pictures, according to Wikipedia.
Thank God Netflix didn't win.
Oh God, right? If this didn't this is such a great theater movie. Why would you? Oh, I'm so
because Netflix needs something to replace Stranger Things once it's gone. So
I really do hate how anti-movie theaters Netflix is. It drives me up the wall. Can't stand it. Because this is absolutely the kind of movie. I mean, as evidenced by how fucking well it's doing. It's doing very well. I'm gonna look it up right now.
I've got those numbers right now for you, actually.
Yeah.
It was a $38 million budget.
Yep.
Wow. And it has so far in 2 weeks made $148.7 million.
That's how you make profit. That's how you make profit. That's how you make profit.
I'm really happy to hear that. Really happy to hear that.
Well, so marketing, let's say double that, 68 million in total.
Yeah, roughly 70, 80, something like that. So you're still
no profit.
You're still about 70 or 80 million in the green, in the black on this one.
Depending on how much they spent on marketing, it's either already profitable or it will be very shortly after its second weekend.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you double the $38 million production budget for the marketing, that takes it to almost 80, which would be,
you're forgetting how much the theater takes in their cut.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
All right, okay, yeah.
The point is, it's either already profitable or it will be soon, and we're not even done with the second weekend yet.
Yeah.
And this seems like it has pretty good legs. I haven't looked at 43%
drop off is what I
that's not bad at all. That's not bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good drop off.
it stayed ahead of like it's still like second weekend. It's still top because it came out like Nobody 2 came out, and this stayed ahead of that pretty handily because nobody saw Nobody 1. So.
But yeah, so it's already doing pretty gosh darn well financially, and I think it's gonna, because I don't think they spent a full $38 million on marketing. I got a lot of marketing for it because I am like the dead center of their target audience for something like this. But like my girlfriend, for example, didn't really see any marketing for it at all. So I'd be surprised if they spent the full 38 million on it. But yeah, it's doing quite well. It's doing quite well, and I'm very happy to see that, because I would like to see whatever he does next. If it's a Resident Evil movie, I hope it's good. I think
apparently it'll be an original thing. It won't include any Resident Evil characters, which is
that's a wise choice. Just do your own thing, man. Just
from what I've heard about the new Resident Evil, it's going to follow a courier that is delivering a package to somewhere in Raccoon City. It could be a person, it could be Umbrella Corporation, but the idea is that he enters the city and then goes deeper and deeper into it and encounters more and more grotesque creatures. And I quite like the premise that he has.
Did you guys hear about
the idea? Really quick, sorry. Is this his idea? This is his pitch for
yes.
the movie? Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know if it was like a new game or something.
Okay. There's another film that he's apparently doing, that he apparently pitched to DC called Henchman, where a henchman in Gotham accidentally stumbles upon Batman and defeats him. And apparently Joker might be in it, Harley might be in it. I think it's based on one of the animated series episodes where it just takes the perspective of a henchman, and Batman succumbs to, I don't know, some pits or something like that, is out of the picture, and the henchman kind of thinks he defeated him.
I would say that's even less exciting to me than the Resident Evil one. Yeah, there's a chance that he makes both of those movies and they could be really, really good. I would, if I were just to give him some advice, I would really want him to just focus more on original stuff.
Yeah. The problem with like the henchman idea, like you could pull off this movie, but it needs to be a well-established universe, which James Gunn has not done at all. You need to be like 5 successful films in to make kind of like a niche spin-off film in this universe. So it could be good. It could be done well, don't get me wrong, but it just seems like a film much later into a comic book.
Yeah, well, they have completely retarded priorities in terms of building this new universe. Like, as evidenced by Superman, is not how you would start a whole universe like this. But Incognito says, so in the Witch prequel, do we learn that she kidnaps kids because her mom was drop kicked off a cliff by kids? Yes.
Well, and her, her paranoia is justified by the end of this movie, so it really spins her in a different light.
Yeah.
The moral of this film, by the way, don't accept your aunties or distant relatives to your house.
Do not trust elderly, sick people. They're gross and they will bewitch you. Don't let them in.
There is something of a lesson about like not letting people weaponize politeness against you.
Yes.
That is something that actually applies to several of the characters, including the parents and the weird aunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a little bit of that in there.
But then again, it's like, you don't know her that particularly well. She's very... would you let her stay in it? I don't think I would. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rude.
I liked the way that they handled it in the movie, right? Like where they have the disagreement where he's just like, she didn't even come to our wedding. We don't know anything about her. And she's like, hey, look, my mom would have done this for her, so I'm going to do this for her. I think that was a really well-handled, believable way of getting that, working that in. Like, she doesn't know her very well necessarily, but like clearly I think you can read into it like her mom has been, dead for a little bit. Or she's like no longer in the picture, and she's viewing this as sort of like a connection to her mother, and
she aspires to be like her mother, and her mother was an incredibly generous and kind person. That's sort of the implication. So like, well, my mom would have done this, so I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Well, I think there is also the room to believe that there may also be some kind of spell at work here. where like I know she's dying, but maybe she's using like her last energy to sort of influence them in some kind of magical way to convince them. You know what I mean?
There's definitely ambiguity about whether she's actually related to them. I think it's reasonable to assume that she's actually not. Like she's pretending to be this estranged relative that she actually isn't. I don't know if I love the idea that outside of the main weaponization spell that she is just casting influence over them in terms of making them make dumb decisions. I think that would weaken it for me if that was the case. I think, she is just sort of preying on their kindness and politeness. I think, and I think
it's called manipulation. Yeah,
and I do think she's, I think it's fun to assume that she might actually not be related to them at all, and it's just like faking that. But I don't like the idea that she's casting a spell of influence before she actually weaponizes them with the like concrete spell. Because if we start doing the like, oh well, all people's behaviors in this movie are explained by the fact that she's just casting a general spell of retard over everyone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that anyone's saying that explicitly, but like that's the kind of, that's what I don't want to start arguing in support of the movie.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Jen earlier mentioned that I'm convinced Netflix doesn't release in theaters because they don't want to pay the actors as much. I think that's true. Because box office royalties are different than streaming numbers. They don't release their streaming numbers and they don't have to. So I think that's
streaming numbers,
part of it.
like they just seem like a cheat code in terms of no one getting any royalties or any big pay.
Yeah.
It just seems beneficial for the studio, no one else.
Yep. Yep. I think the age of streaming was something of like a mirage in the grand scheme of the film industry, and
did you hear?
Up to it. Go ahead.
Disney Plus are not going to reveal their numbers in earnings calls anymore. Apparently,
that's funny.
I heard some report that. Yeah.
Are they allowed to? I guess they're allowed to do that technically. Because they have to release like earnings reports and stuff because they're a publicly traded company, but I guess they don't have to release streaming numbers specifically. I'm kind of surprised they were doing that at all.
Depends who they're calling. To their shareholders, I think they have to disclose everything, don't they?
I don't know. I don't know what the line is there. Because I assume they don't have to disclose literally everything, but general earnings, I'm sure they do. I don't know about streaming numbers because those don't directly tie into the money. They probably have to release in terms of like subscriber counts and like how many people are subscribing because that's directly related to their profitability. But I don't know. I don't know how that works exactly. I do know someone who works in the analytics, department or whatever for Disney Plus personally. Who lives here in Atlanta. Maybe I'll ask her at some point.
Yeah. There could be some bullshit going on there, but I'm inclined to believe in the case of shareholders inquiring as to the performance of Disney. It's just like, what are you doing with our money? How's it going over there? And Disney's just like, it's great. Thumbs up.
It's like, okay. Yeah, no, everything's fine. Did you see Lilo and Stitch made $1 billion?
Numbers are up. Line go up. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the line going up? Just tell me that. Okay.
That's about all I have to say about weapons. I guess closing thoughts is that there's some loose ends. There's some things that are rough around the edges, but I really, really like this movie. I enjoyed watching it again. This is a movie I'm definitely going to own and watch a few more times in my life. I thoroughly recommend it, even if you've had the whole thing spoiled because you didn't heed my warning at the beginning. I think it's definitely worth watching. I think it's the best movie of the year so far, pretty handily. There's a lot of great filmmaking, chops on display here, great performances, a fun and unique mystery and story that you just don't see a lot of these days. I'm happy it's doing well, and it's a good feeling to not only watch a new movie in the theater and actually like it, but especially a new horror movie, because man, there are just so many awful ones. This was quite a refreshing experience. Big fan. 2 thumbs up.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this in the theater. I would definitely see it again. I would encourage everybody to check it out. and I'm looking very much looking forward to seeing what he does next. I think he shows enough of an expertise here that we should all be very excited about what his next project is going to be. If the improvement, is anything, is if the improvement is as much as Jamie says it is. I haven't seen Barbarian yet, but I do plan to. Then yeah, I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is good. I love this. I hope it comes out on Blu-ray. I was surprised to hear that Barbarian didn't get a Blu-ray release. That was a thing that I read recently.
Yeah, that was controversial. People are still mad about it.
Yeah, I would happily have that movie on disc and this movie.
Is it on streaming?
Yeah, Barbarian
it
is
is on
Netflix.
streaming. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but it doesn't have a physical release, which is just like, why? It's good. I don't want physical to go away. I'm not one of those people who's like, streaming all the way. Like, who cares about physical?
My experience with trying to track down a copy of 28 Days Later for like a couple of years, that infuriated me and into buying more physical media. So those of you who are unfamiliar with this, 28 Days Later, for some reason, just stopped being available on any rental or streaming service for a couple of years. For some reason, don't know why, and the only way that you could get it, because of that, like online purchases of DVDs and Blu-rays, like the price went through the roof. So it was like $60 to order one. The only way that you could get it was going to like used video stores or used media stores and finding one on the shelf there where they didn't know what they had. Right, so it was like $6 to get both of them. But yeah, I can't stand the turn away from physical media, because I really don't like the idea that something that I bought or paid for can be taken away because the studio who released it doesn't like the deal anymore that the distribution streaming service gave them, and they just decide to pull the rights and be like, oh, sorry, unavailable until somebody makes us a better deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous. And just to be crystal clear with that, the movie wasn't legally available anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. Like, you could not watch it legally. And I was so relieved that I already had 28 Days Later on Blu-ray, so I was just like, thank fuck I have it. But like, I was just like, man, if I didn't have it and I was looking for it, I would be pissed off, because I was just like, I would want to watch that. Like, I regularly rewatch 28 Days Later. And this would be one of those movies. Barbarian would be one of those movies. So I hope they both get physical releases. And
Warner Brothers tends to. They tend to give physical releases, so I'm looking forward to that. Before TruePop, you say your closing thoughts, I wanted to respond quickly to Mr. Redhead, who says, capital O, why do you think people who aren't usually connected to horror tend to make much more memorable horror movies, like Kubrick with The Shining, Spielberg with Jaws, and Friedkin with The Exorcist? And my gut reaction to that is that people who are horror fans have dog shit standards.
Yes, that would be my assessment as well.
People who I love a good horror movie, but I like all kinds of movies when they're good, right? But people who are like horror fans, like that's their identity, they have the lowest standards I've ever seen. Like, consistently, they're just happy anytime they get new horror movies. They'll watch anything that, like, doesn't matter how good the writing is. If they had a spooky moment in it, then they think it's great. So the people who tend to make really good horror movies are not those people. That's my gut instinct on this.
Why I mainly like films with horror elements, but there has to be something else mixed in, because then I get more of a reassurance that it might be better than just your standard horror slop, let's call it. Yeah.
I think my judge typically for like when a horror movie is a good movie is if it's like good once you've watched it enough times that you're not scared by it anymore. Like, I've seen The Shining a bajillion times because I love that movie. There's nothing in it that like actually frightens me anymore because I've seen it too many times, but I still love it. Right. And I think a good horror movie is good whether you get the same like physical sensation of like, oh, I was startled by that thing that jumped out at me.
That's an interesting theory about like directors having a passive or a passing fancy of horror.
Yeah.
Like
Rewatchability,
they will be
yeah.
the ones who actually really excel at it. Whereas if you take a director like James Wan, for example,
I was
The
just
Conjuring.
about to suggest.
Yeah. Like a lot of his scares, like they are sort of they counter convention in a very shallow way, where it's just like, okay, it's not this shot where the ghost appears, but it's probably going to be the very next shot or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where with this movie, it also challenged convention in a similar broad way, but it's like there was an extra layer to it in its execution, where like you were kind of left hanging longer, and you were wondering like, when is the scare gonna come? And like I'm thinking particular of the Josh Brolin dream sequence where he's looking at the kid in the bed, and you're just looking at the kid's face.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, okay, when is this gonna turn ugly? Like, it's coming. Oh, it's not this shot. It's not that shot. And then it finally comes. But then when the scare comes, it's not just, oh, spooky image for the sake of it. Like, it's because it resembles that woman's, like, makeup. But then that goes into the whole problem of, like, he didn't see the woman before. So, like, why would he be informed in his dream of how this person looks? And that's
His
the
dreams
whole
are
issue
magic,
of, like,
bro.
the universe
He's
is just trying to tell him something, I
detecting
guess.
that she's present in the town. Like,
Right.
I think,
that's
Twin
what
Peaks
we're going
dream
with, I
sequence.
think.
We're
Yes.
going with that, yeah.
But in the case of James Wan, a lot of the time it just feels like a scare for the sake of it. Like, here's a spooky thing. Here you go. Right?
Half of not even half, all of the Conjuring series films are built on the idea of, like, let's put some people alone in a creepy house, make everything really dark so that you can't see anything, make everything really quiet so that you can't hear anything, and your attention is really zeroed in on what's going to happen, and then we'll show you something kind of creepy with a really loud noise, and there's your scares.
It's
And
jump scare slop incarnate. It's the most refined version of it I've ever seen.
It works on me all the time. I easily get scared. All right, I'm that type of guy. Even during this film, right, during like the teacher dream sequence, sleeping with her door open. I don't know who does that, by the way. I was just like looking at my snacks, just like, yeah, this is. But you know, that's how I am with her. But no, if there's something more to it, I'm all good for it.
There's got to be more to it. Like, I mean, a startle is a perfectly fine thing to include in a movie, right? Like, but
you don't build your whole thing off of it. Yeah.
Yes. Please, God, no.
No, well, James Wan has sort of made that his identity now. I mean, he's sort of branched off into like Aquaman, for example, which was like, I don't think I saw that entire movie, but I saw the trailer for it and I was just like, that looks like poo.
It's one of the best performing of all the DCEU Zack Snyderverse films. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, but I think it can have a detrimental effect when it's like you are known as the horror guy, and then you just sort of get bored of it. Whereas if you're just sort of like dabbling into it in it and experimenting with it, like you can actually pull off something exciting and memorable.
Yeah.
And
in the case of Zack Creger, he's comedy man. He was comedy man for a long time. And then he starts dabbling in horror movies that have a nice, like, balance of comedy to them. And I'm like, this is great. I love this. More of this, please.
Yes.
Oh, hey, here's some good news. Zack Creger was on a podcast called Scott Hasn't Seen recently and mentioned that a Blu-ray is coming soon. So
nice.
Yeah.
Not too soon, I hope. Keep it in theaters for a while, please.
Make some money. Make some money, Zach.
Unlike Superman, cough, cough, cough.
Yes.
Is that for Weapons or Barbarian or both?
I think that is for Barbarian.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, that's good news.
Yeah,
that
is for Barbarian. And then Weapons will be on its way. So yeah.
Cool.
Well, cool. Unless anyone had any closing thoughts on Weapons, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it. Hope you had
No
a good
problem.
time
Thank
chatting
you.
about
Yeah,
spooky
definitely.
movie. Spooky.
Of course.
Spooky.
I think we're all
Until
caught
then-
up on super chats. Hugh, correct me if I'm wrong
I
on
think
that.
so as well. Yeah, the last one
think
we
we're
had
good.
was some people felt 2 separate movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us in the chat. We hope you had a good time talking about weapons, guns, maces, sticks, all sorts of fun weapons you can hit people with.
Human bodies.
Thanks for your contributions in the chat and the super chats. We appreciate both of them very much, and thank you both for joining us. That's gonna be it. That's gonna be it for today. We'll see you next week when we talk about I don't know what yet, but I'll let you know.
I can let you know right now. I can tell you exactly what it is. It's 101 Dalmatians, Jamie. We're back.
Oh, okay.
We're back.
Right. Continuing our arc where we watch all the old 2D animated Disney movies. So, yes, thank you for joining us. Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye. Take it easy.
Thanks, guys.